Welcome to the mountains of Pocono. Welcome to Long Pond. Welcome to this track that seemingly is like in the middle of nowhere. Welcome to the virtual Pocono Raceway, and good evening. Welcome to the Thousand Islands Prep pre-race show as we get ready to decide a winner in race number 9 of the Season 8 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, live on the KBueno Racing Network. As always, happy that you're joining us alongside Charlie Beyer and Keelan Belsha. I am Kenneth Bueno. We'll be joined by our in-race analyst, Francisco Bacalhau, in just a little bit. We'll talk to him and get his thoughts before tonight's race from the Tricky Triangle. Keelan, let's begin here. I mean, this is going to be a fantastic showing. Pocono has always provided banger after banger in several different ways. We've seen lots of good racing, lots of great strategy affairs that ultimately go all the way down to the checkered flag. Another fantastic edition, 8th consecutive time. We're here at Pocono. We have never skipped a beat at this 2.5-mile triangle.
And I don't think it'll be any different tonight, Kenneth. It's great to be here, and I look forward to a great race tonight. If you think back to these past couple seasons where we've seen Lawson Peel, Brandon Hawkins, Jaden Porter all find success at this racetrack, we have had great racing leading up to those races here in the past, and a lot of last lap heroics is what it took last season. We'll be looking forward to seeing if that can be the case tonight. We're in store for a good one.
And this track is very much known for creating different winners, Charlie. 7 of the last races, 7 different winners in Pocono history as we move into Season 8 edition of this race. And we saw 2 of those events back in Season 6 with Lawson Peel getting his second straight, Brandon Hawkins winning his first, Jaden Porter, of course, in the crazy events of those final few laps. What will it take for a driver to succeed here tonight, knowing how different this venue is from a lot of different tracks?
Well, it's being able to navigate each corner and how different it is. I think the unpredictability that we've seen over the countless races that we've seen here on the KBueno Racing Network is really a testament to how unique this track is as a whole. Obviously, looking at it on a track map, it's a very unique shape. It's not your traditional oval. 3 different corner types that we'll dive into later on how they're modeled after different real-life corners on circuits around the world. But it's all about attacking these corners and being able to understand them well. And keeping your track position that'll keep you up front.
Some drivers like to call it a 3-headed beast. I seem to agree with that notion as we go into a track like this. It's so very different. We'll dive into those details and all the storylines as we bring in this new edition of 4-Wide Racing. Let's refresh your memory as to what happened last week. We were at the Last Great Coliseum, the fastest half mile, whatever name you want to give Bristol Motor Speedway, and the chaos already started, Keelan, before lap 1. Stephen Maggio, the pole sitter, had spun around, bringing Eric Schaefer and Amir Bascombe with him, and some surprisingly leading laps for Lawson Peel, given how his season has been, but the overarching storyline, chaos, something we expected to see.
Yeah, and there was no shortage of it, Kenneth. We saw a lot of caution laps, a lot of time behind the pace car. That was Kyle Benson getting spun around. He was trying to clear his nose there. He got spun around. That was something we saw a common theme of as everybody kind of piled into him here. It was Curtis Kelly in the Stitch Mobile that had nowhere to go right there. He was dressed up as Stitch for Halloween last week. Not how he wanted his race to go. We saw Alexander Schumacher get out to the race lead for a little bit. DBR teammates Brandon Banks and Lawson Peel, they got together right there. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer got involved. A lot of good race cars got taken out in that one.
Not the first time we would see the former series champion in trouble. Then, of course, all of the results from the differing strategy. Schumacher spent at least over 110 laps on his set of tires. This is JJ Hill going around side by side. Connor Trafari also taking the spill. Lots of good racing from second on back, though, Charlie. That includes Jaden Porter and Lawson Peel, who would slip up on the straightaway trying to go for the race leader, and Jaden Porter would proverbially take his place in the battle for the lead.
Yeah, and Jaden Porter and Ethan Fonseca Moreno did put on a battle to the end of this race, but we had to get through a few more yellows in order to get there. We see Eric Schaefer here on the back bumper of Jaden Porter, but he had a nice day there running inside of the top 10. But this spin from Lawson Peel after a very strong day up in the front, running inside the top 5, ends in a spoil on the front straightaway. He loses a bunch of spots, but at the end, it was these BBR teammates kind of defending their race win streak here. Had to go to a green right checker to do it. Another strong performance out of Daniel Moore as well. But when it comes to the end, it was these two fighting for the win.
And this race seemed to be all about drivers who struggled in the early portions or even midway, slowly crawling back with all of the yellows, all the track position changes, and it came down to this final restart. 2 laps to go in overtime. Moreno sneaks ahead of his teammate, leads the way through, and it's his second consecutive victory of Season 8. Already 4 race victories this season. That's the fastest we've ever seen him get to that tally. He's now 1 short of his 5 straight wins, or 5 victories overall, that he picked up in his championship campaign back in Season 6. So it's already looking like a prime championship contending season for the Californian and Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And it seems like with each passing week, Keelan, it seems like Moreno is finding a new echelon to step in. Pocono, a track where he's performed relatively well at in his past several seasons here, could be another opportunity for him to grab another win and to get an unprecedented 3 straight. I believe the first time we'd see that since Brandon Hawken did it last year.
And he'll be looking to do that, and he is very good at no matter the racetrack we go to on the schedule. But as you look at how his season has gone so far, 8 starts in, 4 victories. Next closest in the points battle to him is Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, 44 points back. So some work to be done for the rest of this field. As Ethan Fonseca Moreno, we talk about it all the time. Season 6 champion, Season 7, bit of a down year, had to miss a lot of the races. Came back, got a couple wins late in that season. He has turned that into all the momentum in the world as he gets started here on Season 8. And so far, he's turning it into the results. Those 4 victories, going to be looking to make it 5 tonight.
You know, he's given us the storylines of his mindset from Season 7 all the time. All the races that he had to miss, his chance at a comeback here in Season 8, well, he has certainly lived up to the bill, and he's starting to fit it up nicely for a championship as we continue through the midway portion of this regular season. Pocono has seen lots of different winners. That is certainly no surprise given this track's nature and the way that things can shape out at this track. But we saw another addition into the chapter last season in a finale fight in the final few laps between Jaden Porter, Francisco Bacallao, and Austin Reedy, ending in fireworks and ending in disastrous heartbreak for the 30. Green flag waves from Pocono, and there goes Porter. With Bacallao in tow, Bacallao shooting out of a cannon. Now he'll peek under. The aggressive move in turn 2. Will it pay off? Reedy looks tied for a second. He doors Bacallao hard into the outside wall. Jaden Porter, who will take his 2nd win of the season from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. As Francisco Bacallao entered that Pocono race, he was a favorite. He ended up being crashed in the final lap. He comes back with a chance to right the wrongs and rewrite the history. We're joined now by our in-race analyst, usually our fellow booth partner, Francisco Bacallao. Francisco, you obviously have a lot of pace here at Pocono. This is one track that you circled at for your part-time schedule in Season 5 or Season 8. What'll it take to rewrite the trajectory, get to victory lane here like you did at Indianapolis, and try to avenge that finish from last season?
Well, if we had to write it in a textbook style, Kenneth, I guess just trying to run that race as similarly as possible, try to keep that track position. It's Indianapolis and Pocono in the sim are so similar in terms of how you have to race the racetrack and the length of the racetrack, even though the shape is completely different. So I think if you can keep the track position and do everything you can to hold on to the top spot, I think that might be the winning strategy.
And the big difference from last season's race to this season's race, obviously, is that next-gen update, which we've harped on so much. You and I have talked about it ad nauseum, from how it changes the way you drive the car versus the tire wear, and a lot of different factors when you're in the middle of traffic. How different has this car felt already in the practice laps that you've taken through tonight from Pocono, and what it should feel like when we take that green flag later on?
It feels a lot different. I feel more comfortable just driving the car, at least when it's by itself. Well-documented feature with these cars now is the aero packing situation, and it doesn't feel as extreme as it did the very first day it came out, though it is very much there. Dirty air is a factor, so you have to just keep those things in mind if you have a car within 2 or 3 tenths of your back bumper entering a corner. And when you're entering a corner 2 or 3 tenths behind somebody, just be ready in case the car decides to take off from you. You don't want to end up in the outside wall, so you have to make sure you're careful with all that.
So we've seen physicality in the final few corners at Pocono. Obviously, last season was a big-time hit for you from Austin Reedy. If you're in that same position, second place, looking for the victory, car in front is maybe a car length or two ahead, are you dealing the chrome horn? Does that mentality change for you?
I would understand why someone would feel that way, Kenneth, but it really does come down to circumstances. I know I don't run full-time, so my only obligation is to come out here and win these races, but to be completely honest with you, that's just not me. I wouldn't do that. At least I say that right now. We'll see when I'm there in battle if that's something I do. I don't think so. It's just not the way I would like to be raced, and I think the best way to demonstrate that is to proceed to do that in a race, actually end up in that situation and not do it, which obviously that's what happened in the final corner. But if you look back at the entire last lap, I was there side by side in the tunnel turn with Jade, and I gave him a lot of room and basically put myself in a situation where I had to kind of back out going into turn 3 to try and redo my move. But that's the way I want to race for the win, the way I race Jaden.
All up for a second shot, though, tonight, and I'm sure it's still going to be exciting when you and the rest of the field take the green flag here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Francisco, on behalf of all of us in the booth, we'll be watching you throughout the race. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to you. Best of luck in qualifying and when the green flag drops.
Appreciate it, you guys. Enjoy the race from up there, and make sure you hone in on that back bumper of mine.
That's Francisco Bacallao driving his number 30 Toyota Camry in a part-time effort. He won this season at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a race in which he avenged from the previous year. He's going to try and do it all over again, this time from another 2.5-mile unique track, this tricky triangle here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Well, we've taken certainly an interesting trip over the last few weeks. We mentioned our travel costs. If we were to have any real logistical challenges, Charlie, of getting around through the schedule from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve over to Auto Club, then Kentucky, then to Bristol Motor Speedway, we've continued on our journey through very different tracks. And make no mistake, it's going to not change at all through the next few weeks, even into the Thanksgiving break as we get into the All-Star event from Homestead following Chicagoland.
Yeah, if forward racing was a real thing, I'd have to talk with the logistics department in terms of our travel miles. We'll be racking those up, or kind of the amount of times we play flight sim. We know how hefty those trips would be, but a lot of different tracks here, going from Pocono Raceway, a very large oval, down to Dover, which is basically like a car crash every time you enter each corner. That's unique in that sense. Then Talladega Super Speedway, and then over to a 1.5-mile oval that differs from the previous 3 races. So a lot of different challenges for the drivers as we approach midway through this season.
Lots of different venues, of course. Another 1.5 miles there at Chicagoland. That's going to be the first since Kentucky. And after all those weeks, it is going to be very, very gruesome on the driver base. They're all going to have to find some special skill they can use to be the best over the first 4 races. Of course, it is going to be all about winning a race. That gets you a virtually locked in spot to the 4-wide playoffs, so no real use about having to be the best pointed driver. However, from what we've seen with Kyle Benson, Jaden Porter, and even Canadian Curtis Kelly last season, being good in points, being good week in and week out is either going to get you a shot at a win at some point, or if you don't win, all those points can accumulate. You end up with a possible run at a championship later on in the season. So a big question mark as to what we'll see from a lot of the driver base tonight, but it is going to be a certain big challenge for all of them to find their groove in the next few races heading into Chicagoland before we reach the midway portion of our regular season. Lots of memories here from Pocono Raceway, and we turn into our KBRN moment in time, where 2 years ago we had a stellar playoff race for the Work Dynamo Designs National Series, ending with the playoff driver in victory lane. Welcome to today's KBRN moment in time. For this moment, it's a tricky triangle trip to 2023 and the Work Dynamo Designs National Series playoffs. For the entrance of pit road, it'll be the 71 of Gino Mero, the 018 of John Canizaro leading us to the green. We're underway in the Dynamo Designs 125. As a crucial playoff race for the Work Dynamo Designs National Series, 14 drivers tried to point their way ahead here at the tricky triangle. The race was marred by a lap 1 caution before turn 1, but the race soon went green, with John Canizaro and company trying to make position at the front. While Garrett White, championship contender, would get around some of his orange-bannered cars, it would take a little while for everyone to step into their groove. One of those drivers entering their groove was championship contender Clayton Ramstead, who would then see a car into the outside wall off of turn 3 and spin into the tire barrels. As the race entered halfway, strategy would take center stage as Canadian Jay Mulder took the lead with a lot of the playoff drivers chasing behind him. Then problems came up, not from the racing, but from the broadcast with frame rate issues. As that was solved inside 5 laps to go, Mulder would see the rearview mirror filled by playoff driver Gino Mero, who would make a crucial pass before a final overtime restart, helped the 71 carry his way to a second race victory of the season, and one that would help his chances entering the round of 9. Despite some of the technical difficulties, this race was an all-time classic in a great Work Dynamo Designs National Series season. And that's today's KBRN Moments in Time. Always a good time whenever you take on this 2.5-mile triangle in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And for Gino Mero, that was an astounding moment for the playoff driver. Moved on to the round of 9. Ultimately, what was going to be a championship push at the end of that Work Dynamo Designs National Series season. Keelan, Pocono has played a big-time role in a lot of leagues. Obviously, this series being one of them. Back in Season 6, we had a regular season race early, but it became a playoff decider. Last year, a couple seasons ago, with Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Lawson Peel, it decided where they were going to be in points, entering those final few races, going into Homestead of Miami. So the stakes are always high whenever you take on this track.
They are, and that is going to be something that we're going to be watching tonight. Even though this is kind of in the first half of the season, it's still going to be a possible look at somebody who could punch their ticket into the playoffs. You know, one win punches you in as long as you meet that start threshold. So these guys are going to be racing hard tonight. And, you know, you think about it, if that was Jaden Porter's only win last year, that would have been the one that punched his ticket into the playoffs. For Austin Reedy, if he could have got by, somehow stole that race away, that could have been his ticket to the playoffs. We know he missed it by the skin of his teeth at that Daytona regular season finale. So it's a track that opens up the doors for all different kinds of drivers.
So much excitement whenever you take on these unique ovals, because we're used to seeing the cookie cutters, we're used to seeing the typical short tracks, but when you get to put a triangle on the schedule that has 3 distinct corners and no rhyme or reason to it, you have the drivers figure out how that rhyme or reason is going to shake out over the course of a long race. That makes it all the more exciting when you have these unique curveballs that are thrown to the batter's box and the drivers, in a sense, trying to hit it out of the park with a race victory. One of those is a driver that's searching for his first career 4-wide victory at his home racetrack. Nicholas Baumann won the All-Star race and stunned a lot of people in the 4-wide world last season, but in search of his first ever points victory, Nicholas Baumann enters this Pennsylvania race with a lot of high hopes entering his sophomore season in 4-wide action.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Baumann. or Nick, whatever you want to call me, and I am in my sophomore season of 4-wide competition. Hasn't gotten any easier, I'll tell you that. There's definitely a lot of newer guys that I've raced with before in other leagues that are more talented. I got some work to do to dig out of the hole that I've dug for myself.
Help me get away from this godforsaken place I'm in. You should run away if you ain't really ready for the way I live.
I feel like it's just some of the guys that I've gotten to know over the last year or so. Guys like Tyler, Kyle Benson, you guys at BBR. I've made a lot of friends along the way. And yeah, they're fun to race with. They're fun to hang out with. Some of them are a little crazy, if I'll say that. But it's been a blast so far. Oh, it would mean the world to me. It would just be validation that I can actually do this and I'm not just some bum doing this for fun on Wednesdays.
Fun chat with Nicholas Baumann as he, alongside several of his Dark Horse Racing teammates, try to get their first ever 4-wide victory. Trevor Haley leading the charge from Season 6, and then bringing in the rest of the gang, Juan Escamilla and Baumann included. Keelan Baumann is one of the few Pennsylvania natives that enters this race. Kyle Benson from Williamsport also looking to grab a win at the Tricky Triangle, which would also be his first at this 2.5-mile venue. So lots of high hopes, lots of positivity for Nicholas Baumann, even though he told me when we talked back then on Media Day that he's still kind of getting his butt kicked in a series as competitive as this.
And it's a stacked field, so I know that feeling. I've been racing trucks on Monday night, and it feels like I'm getting my butt kicked by everybody. I'm running around in the back just trying to keep the truck on all four wheels, so I know that feeling. But Baumann has gotten super competitive since he started racing in here. Still looking for that first points-paying victory, and he's looked really solid in a lot of races this year. Would not be surprised if that comes in these next coming races.
He's looking for his first victory again. That first proverbial victory that really wasn't a points-paying dub was back at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the All-Star race. He held on by just the edge over Curtis Kelly, who mounted a charge in the final few laps. Baumann told us how happy he was to get a victory there, but obviously as a race car driver, you want as much as you can get. You always want more. Baumann searching for his first victory. Looking good so far in the practice sessions as we pull forward. All right, guys, well, let's do our 4-wide race trends. We've got several of them before we start tonight's race. From Long Pond, Pennsylvania, Charlie, lots of good things to talk about when it comes to Lawson Peel at this venue. He's the only driver with 2 wins and an average finish of 7th.
Yeah, and I think coming off a strong performance last week, obviously a bit sour with him. He's coming to a place that he knows that he is successful at and obviously knows his way around. So I would suspect that Lawson Peel has a good night tonight.
Lawson, of course, searching for his first victory here since Season 6. Did it in the regular season event. Raced well in that second Pocono race, but fell short to Ethan Fonseca Moreno and the eventual winner in Brandon Hawk. And our second trend is 2 of the last 3 Pocono winners have started on pole, Keelan, so it pays off to have good track position.
And in a update in these next-gen cars that we're going into tonight for the first time at this Pocono Speedway, where track position has been heightened on the importance level tenfold, that is going to be something that these guys are going to be taking note of all race long. Back in the Xfinity cars the previous next-gen days, sure, pole was an advantage, but it never was such a clean air king race car like these guys are going to be racing with tonight. We have seen track position pay off all season long. Tonight should be no different.
And over 8 races in Pocono history, 7 of them have been different winners. Of course, Brandon Hawk and Lawson Peel putting themselves on the front row. That pays off tenfold. And when the checkered flag comes out. Final trend, KBueno Racing have won the last 7 races in a row. Since Michael Walls got the GOAT Incorporated victory at Daytona, BBR has won every single race since then, including back-to-back from Ethan Fonseca Moreno. There's Jurgensmeyer and his first career victory at Auto Club, and the tear that the 92 car has had on the field. Charlie, it's going to be a good time to be a BBR driver. They've won so many of these races in a row, and there's probably a high chance that they can get another one tonight from Pocono.
Yeah, and I think their depth chart is only more advanced when you introduce Francisco Bacallao, who is currently top of the practice boards right now. He is a formidable force, and he proved that with his last race here in 4-wide at Pocono. Obviously, had a good finish stripped away from him in the final corner, but he's a strong driver. He's going to add to it tonight, and I would suspect that drivers like Jaden Porter, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, they're going to be up here tonight competing.
One thing you don't see in that video that's looping on your screen is the win at Indianapolis from Francisco Bacallao, the moment where he had to save the fuel in overtime attempts and hang on for the victory. It was an emotional dub for Bacallao, his first in over 4 years. He's going to look for his second in the last few months here in 4-wide action alongside his teammates looking to grab some more dubs of their own. Well, we enter Pocono Raceway with a lot of different storylines in Season 8, but this track, Keelan, remains the same as always. 3 distinct corners, a 3-headed beast in the Northeast.
Hey, look at that Google Earth. It's in the middle of nowhere. This track, like several other tracks that opened around the 1971 year, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But these 3 turns, totally different. Turn 2, modeled after Indianapolis. Turn 3, the Milwaukee Mile. Turn 1, I believe, was Trenton. So these 3 corners are so different. They're different challenges they're going to have to face with. No corner is the same. And Francisco Bacallao, he took us on a bit of a test run here to show us what this was like. This was in the previous Next Gen update, so a little bit different than what we're going to be having tonight, but should be similar in the way you drive it for the most part. So use that downshift in turn 1. That is something that we see in these Next Gens, and it's unique to them. That engine braking that you can do to get down to 4th gear and get the car slowed up. It is a key component to these race cars in turn 1. You got to wrap the bottom, keep it in 4th gear, get up to 5th right before you get down into that tunnel turn. Another downshift, going to slow the car down over that tunnel turn right there on the yellow line. And it's pretty similar as you go down this little short chute, the final straightaway. You kind of hit that rev limiter. Francisco in this lap stays out of 5th gear, probably slows you down more than it adds any advantage to you. You wrap the bottom there, and then you're home free. But that run off turn number 3 is so important, Kenneth, with how long this front straightaway is.
And obviously the banking down there is the least of that we see across the entire 2.5-mile triangle. That one based off the Milwaukee Mile. You got to keep the rotation in there. Countless times we've seen either off of 1, 2, or 3 drivers using up the right front tire, getting into the outside wall. Plenty of those have happened off the final corner and have created plenty of incidents along the way. So hopefully we don't see any of that moving forward tonight. But I mean, cross your fingers. We could see some chaos nonetheless from a track that is known to bring the high speeds and the high intensity. As we wrap up our Thousand Islands Correct pre-race show, we want to give a moment to send our heart and our thoughts to those lost in the plane crash yesterday afternoon from the Louisville International Airport and Muhammad Ali International Airport from UPS 2976, an MD-11 freighter that was taking flight on a trip to Honolulu, Hawaii, packed full of fuel. The left engine had malfunctioned. There was fire from the left engine when it took off, crashed into a building, and there are still people that we don't know if they're accounted for, and a toll that continues to rise as the investigation rolls through. So we want you to join us in a moment of silence for those lives lost in memory of UPS 2976 yesterday afternoon.
Let's go racing!
Welcome to the Thousand Islands Cruette in Clayton, New York. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in for a tasting and our helpful and knowledgeable staff will help you find the perfect olive oils or vinegars to add that perfect touch to your next meal. We have monthly specials and sales, as well as new pairings and recipes, so there's always something new to try when you visit. The Thousand Islands Cruette on James Street in Clayton. And don't forget, no touchy the tankies.
There's only one fuel that can drive the performance you demand from your car. New 94 Octane.
the highest octane on the market. Only at Sunoco.
Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How's it going, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini. I have a hoagie. I got it all through the Walmart Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
That's my bonus for my quota. Boy, don't nobody I just get a check in the jail with the set. All we do is rap. Ain't worried about next. I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us, this right here in the on us.
The ninth chapter of the season takes a field of championship hopefuls to the Quaker State and the three-axis threat in Long Pond, where the KBueno Racing Network is glad to welcome you to exclusive coverage of the ninth race in the Season 8 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series and this trip to the virtual Pocono Raceway. Happy that you're joining us tonight. We're alongside Charlie Beyer and Keelan Belsha. I am Kenneth Bueno. We'll be joined by our in-race analyst, Francisco Bacalhau, in just a few moments. Keelan, this season continues to roll through with one team dominating the charts, KBueno Racing. Since Daytona, they have not lost a single race, 7 straight heading into this tricky triangle in which we've seen 7 different winners over the last 8 events here at this 2.5-mile track, so it should be another fun edition here from Pocono.
Yeah, it's great to be here tonight, and like you said, PBR, they have been on an absolute tear this year. They've stopped all the other teams like a Murray Reedy Motorsports, Drinking Bros Racing from putting themselves in victory lane, and those guys are all going to be looking for an opportunity to take down KBueno Racing today. To be the best, you got to beat the best, and that is what the goal is tonight at Pocono.
And this continues the trend, Charlie, of going to very different venues in which there is no rhythm. You have to be a specialist at all these types of tracks. You have to be versatile every single week. What's it going to take for the drivers to be that challenger to go for the victory tonight at a track that is relatively hard to master?
Well, you said it, Kenneth. Being able to adapt to your environment around you, especially at a place that is as tricky as this place, as you know, it's called the Tricky Triangle, of course. It's all about coming to this racetrack and being able to attack these corners the right way. Each of them is different in their own unique way, but being able to capture that and fall into a rhythm here is going to be the most important. But I will tell you, going from a place like Bristol to a place like Pocono is a big change.
It is a huge change, and that's been sort of the theme over the course of Season 8. We haven't seen multiple 1.5 together, multiple short tracks strung together. It's all spread apart here in Season 8, Keelan, which ultimately makes this journey through the season a lot more fun. We get to see a lot more variety in the tracks that drivers face, and obviously lots of guys that are more specialized at short tracks or 1.5 versus other types of venues. We go from Pocono to Dover to Talladega and then to Chicagoland, closing out what's been a frenetic first half of the regular season.
Yeah, and then we get to that Christmas break, which I'm sure a lot of these guys are looking forward to, that winter break throughout the month of December, where the only race we have is the All-Star race at Homestead Miami Speedway, which, by the way, that All-Star race, it's not a wash, Kenneth. Those guys are going to be taking that very seriously, because look at where Homestead falls later in the season. It is on the cutoff of the round of 10. It's your last chance to make the championship race at Auto Club, so these are races that everybody's taking seriously. Even the non-points events, people are going to be attempting to run very well and learn everything they can. You know, with this new next-gen update, and we go to so many different racetracks, it is allowing these guys to sharpen their tool set just a little more week by week, and nobody's been doing it better than the 92 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno, though.
It almost just feels like for a lot of the driver base, they're looking at this schedule and this stretch and saying, you ugly. This is a really dreary part of the season in which a lot of the drivers have to hunker down, find where the wins can get them, and find a playoff spot in the midst of a competition that seems to rise every single season with the drivers and every single people involved in this series. So as we continue on, it's going to be fun to watch, and we hope that you're there to join us on the KBueno Racing Network. Some drivers going through qualifying right now. One of those is our very own Francisco Bacallao, who drove in this race last season, was just one spot away from victory, entering the final corner on the final lap as his teammate Jaden Porter surged ahead. It took one hit from Austin Reedy in turn 3 to send those two cars sailing into the wall, created a big-time crash, entering the final corner, and then exiting was just pure aftermath of the chaos and destruction that had happened from there. He looks to avenge himself in a season in which he's already done so once, Charlie. He won at Indianapolis in a race in which he was very concerned about making it through fuel. Tonight could be a very different race, but the goal is the same. Win this one, get 2 on the season, and continue a successful part-time schedule.
Well, that'd be awesome for him, and he's one of those drivers that is a formidable force. There's no denying that whenever he pulls up to a racetrack, despite racing a part-time schedule, he is top of the qualifying boards as it stands right now. So, yeah, how about that for Francisco? Getting a win at Indianapolis, getting a win at Pocono, a race which he almost had, or at least he had in his clutches last season, and just had it slip away from him in the last corner. So you can bet that Francisco's going to be running up front all night tonight and try to continue that BBR streak that's going on.
And then, of course, the other end of it, Keelan, is Jaden Porter, who won this race last season and put on a tear. He's one of the 7 different winners that have taken victory lane here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And through 8 races last season, he only had 2 finishes outside of the top 10. This season, he only has 3. He's currently on a 3-race top 5 streak. That includes a runner-up finish from Bristol Motor Speedway not too long ago, where he fell to his teammate Ethan Fonseca Moreno. So even though Jaden's already got that playoff spot, he's locked in, he's got good momentum behind him, he definitely wants to go back-to-back here and try to chase Ethan on that banter-filled journey they've been on over the last year or so.
It's all about building momentum, and this is what Jaden's going to be trying to do. There is a long way to go in this regular season. The number he's going to be looking at going into tonight is 61. He is 61 points back of Ethan Fonseca Moreno. How much would it mean to him to go down there before the playoffs and take the points regular season championship away from him? That is what that 28 is going to be looking at. That is his biggest rival. As much as it is a teammate, he always looks to Ethan, and Ethan looks to him, and those are the guys who race each other very hard, very cleanly, but very hard on a racetrack. So looking tonight to get 2 in a row at Pocono, get some momentum built. Second win of the year would be pretty nice tonight.
And Moreno's the guy with all the glory right now. 2 straight victories, 4 total here in 2025-26 for Season 8 of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series season. So Moreno going to be looking for a trifecta in a row. Could be the first time since Brandon Hawken did it late last season. Well, drivers are sitting behind the iRacing official pace car, so let's take you trackside and bring you the field for tonight's 9th race of the Season 8 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and Pocono, where on the front row is Nicholas Bauman, the Pennsylvania native, trying to be the hometown hero with a 53.485. He grabs the pole position, and the driver who finished second on the white flag lap and then ended up crashing out of second, Francisco Bacallao, he's going to be on the outside of the front row to the green flag. 2-time Pocono winner Lawson Peel rolls off from 3rd place, trying to recover. He got an 8th place finish in top 10 at Bristol Motor Speedway last week. Michael Walls in his number 60 machine, trying to get a 2nd victory for Goat Incorporated and a 2nd for himself. He rounds out the outside of the top 4. Then a new entrant, Andretti Robinson, a member of the SAC Cup Series, longtime driver there, makes his first appearance in 4-wide action from 5th on a good qualifying effort. And Virginia's Eric Schaefer, former winner of this race back in Season 4, he'll try to bring his Chevrolet to another victory tonight from the outside of row number 3. Back in row 4 is where you'll find Mikey Neal in his number 8 Chevrolet, trying to win his first race in 4-wide career, and then Trevor Haley, the Indiana native, on his outside in 8th place, before you find those two sitting in row number 5, a pair of teammates from Murray Reedy Motorsports. Craig Lautenslager, P9, Keelan Belsha, Tristan Bailey rounds out the top 10.
Just outside the top 10. Good qualifying effort for the 16 of Dusty Applin, looking to get a good run tonight. Steven Maggio started on pole last week, but ended up in several different incidents that cost him a good finish. He starts 12th tonight in the 51 machine. Row 7 fields A.J. Green, who's had a lot of good runs this year. Just needs to find those finishes with Tyler Murray in the 36th to his outside in 14th. Back in the 8th row, we have Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, the Auto Club winner. We come to another big racetrack tonight. He'll be looking to get another victory. He starts 15th. Kyle Benson in the 38 car with our helmet cam tonight starts in 16th. Back in the 9th row, we have CJ Munier in the 89 with Curtis Kelly in 18th, looking to recover from his incident at Bristol last week. Colin Forster back in the grid tonight. He starts in the 19th position, and Alex Schumacher trying to put together a good run tonight. He starts in 20th.
Starting off beyond the top 20, Chris Bishop in the number 42 starts 21st, and Rainy Showers to his outside starts 22nd. Michael Newbraw 23rd. He will start on the inside of row number 12. Brandon Gillis to his outside, and running out the drivers who had to put that at qualifying time. Daniel Moore, coming off a very strong performance at Bristol, starts 25th. And then deeper into this field, you see the likes of Connor Trafari, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Jesse Priest. A lot of heavy hitters are deep in the field tonight, and they'll have some work to do, especially those BBR cars.
And that includes Kentucky native Jaden Porter in a special UPS tribute livery tonight. Brandon Banks on the outskirts of the top 30. Tony Kivick, Chris Fowler, and Craig Parks bring in the 33-car field. We are packed deep tonight from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Should be a very exciting race. So drivers are sitting behind the iRacing official pace car still on this Charlie Beyer Photography starting grid. Still waiting for some of those final few to get back onto the racetrack and get this pace car rolling for what will be one of 80 complete laps that we'll have tonight over a relatively long race from Pocono. Keelan, as we step into the moments before the green flag lap, Keelan, what should we watch for? What are the keys to the race?
Well, track position is going to matter, so nobody is going to have a better advantage on this start than Nicholas Baumann and Francisco Bacalhau with the clean air out their front windshield. That is what they're going to be looking at. We've seen it matter in almost every race this year. Now we come to a big racetrack like Pocono where it's so aero-dependent, and having that clean air on your nose is so important. It's going to be very important tonight is track position. Green flag runs are a possibility that we have seen here in the past. These guys get spread out, the opportunity to, lead to some green flag pit stops, have to manage your stuff for a long run. The field get a little spread out. It's always a possibility here at Pocono. And then strategy. That is going to be something that these guys are going to be looking at tonight. 2 tires, 4 tires. What is the call? This can kind of be played like a super speedway race almost in strategy, because you don't get lapped on a green flag pit stop here. So we'll see how that shakes out. 3 turns of doom. No turn is the same. We talked about it in the pre-race show. All 3 turns are modeled after a different turn in the United States, and neither one is the same. It's very difficult to hit your marks, but if you're going to put yourself in victory lane, the guy who does that will be the one who hits his marks most consistently all night long.
Well, thank you, Keelan. There goes the field right behind the iRacing official pace car. Only 1 pace lap, so as we round about turn 3, that will be the moment for the pace car to make that ditch to pit road, and we should be green flag racing here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania for the 9th ever time in 4-wide history. This is one of the few venues that has hosted a race in every single season of 4-wide action dating back to 2020. Daytona, of course, is one of them. We've tallied on several other tracks that have been a part of 4-wide history for the entirety of it. Pocono is no stranger to 4-wide racing. And for new winners, we've seen so many new drivers, some veterans take victory lane. We had Brandon Hawkins spoil the party late in the playoffs in Season 6, with Peel winning 2 straight from Season 5 to the first race of Season 6. And then Jaden Porter grabbing one of his many career 4-wide victories and his first here at the Tricky Triangle last season in a finish that was worthy of note. And it's the man on the short end of the stick from the outside of row number 1, Francisco Bacalhau, waiting for Nicholas Baumann, the sophomore driver, to bring this field ready to go. 200 miles here from Pocono as we rally in the first half of this 4-wide regular season. Pace car will make that entry to pit road after the long turn 3 and a long and wide front straightaway, where the National Guard Chevrolet of Nicholas Baumann alongside the Celsius Toyota of Bacalhau bring us green flag racing from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And there it is from the opening lap. 4 wide and a car on the wall. There's trouble right behind Trevor Haley, who hit the wall at the exit of 1. Tyler Murray seems to be in it. And once again, we cannot complete the first turn before a yellow flies. The league owner and his teammate, Tristan Bailey, destroyed at the exit of 1.
It's so easy to do here when you come in here on the cold tires into a fast corner that is turn number 1. Third straight week, we have seen incidents on the opening lap, and this time we got down into turn number 1 for a change of pace, but still, the incident happens nonetheless. You saw him fan out here going down into turn number 1, Kenneth. That is going to be something that we see often on these restarts. These guys fanning out 3, 4 wide. You see Tristan Bailey in at 35 right there. Tyler Murray gets loose back there. Tristan Bailey also gets loose. Steven Maggio somehow stays out of it. But those two of Bailey and Murray get the worst of it. I saw Trevor Haley, who was right in front of Bailey. He snapped up into the wall as well. Here's the look from Murray's on board. He started 14th, right behind Steven Maggio. You see the checkup on the outside line right there. Oh, and it looked like Murray may have kind of jammed the brakes a little bit to try and stay off the Maggio mobile. Did a job staying off of Maggio, but he spun himself around in the process. He probably would have been all right if he didn't get that hit from that car passing him. I don't know if that was, couldn't tell who that was, but that looks like suspension damage to the 36. Alexander Schumacher trying to get by it. There's just nowhere to go in that instance for him. Probably getting a little nose damage there. Brandon Gillis was the one who slammed into Tyler Murray, but so easy to do here with how stacked up they get. The checkup you get going down into the first corner causes an incident here on the opening lap of the race, and Bailey's day looks done. Tyler Murray might have got toe link damage there, and that's why he had to tow it back. He may not be out of the woods yet, but certainly a lot of damage on that 36 car. It looks like the other guys, the 68, maybe Trevor Haley in the 4, they may have escaped with minimal damage, but quick incident here into turn number 1, lap number 1.
That is a hard pill to swallow for Alex Schumacher, and the frustration's evident from the Port Huron, Michigan native who had his Shoesanity run, a streak of top 10s from his first start this season, and then it was snapped last week at Bristol Motor Speedway after 3 consecutive crashes that took him basically out of contention in the waning laps at Bristol, and there he is with a damaged Chevrolet with several other cars joining him on the eventual casualty list. Tristan Bailey has brought his Ford Mustang behind the wall, so his night is over. Same deal for Brandon Gillis, and it's the second consecutive week, Charlie, in which a Murray Media Motorsports Ford Mustang has suspension damage. After a spin like that, Kyle Benson suffered the consequences after turning himself from Michael Wallace's nose entering the corner, and then had a square hit to the suspension from Curtis Kelly. It's nearly the same story, just a different verse here for Tyler Murray getting spun around in turn 1. Brandon Gillis with nowhere to go gives that suspension damage, and both of them are out of this race before lap 1 is complete.
I can't tell which feeling is worse, having that taken away from you at the very beginning of the race, or having done all the work and over the course of a race and have it being taken from you midway or later in the race. But either way, the Murray Media Motorsports drivers have not had a good deal of luck in the last 2 races, and obviously the last one tending to Kyle Benson's already poor season in terms of luck. But I'm not sure which one is worse, Kenneth.
And for Benson, obviously had escaped that. He was pretty much nowhere near that incident. He was able to scurry away. Car number 38 back in 24th place in his pickle car machine, similar to what Todd Gilliland rode around the racetrack not too long ago in the NASCAR Cup Series. And a driver that finished 3rd at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal earlier this season. So far, that's one of his 2 top 5 finishes of the year. He has not finished in the top 10 in any of the races in between or after that. And then a 31st place finish at Bristol Motor Speedway last week in that similar incident that we saw Tyler Murray in not too long ago. One thing that we've seen from Kyle Benson is his personality week in and week out. Whenever we get the chance to talk to him, it's always a good time. He's given us a treat on the driver camera side. Usually we have a still shot of the driver themselves. This is a first-person camera shot, Keelan, of Kyle Benson. So we're going to get his first-person perspective of literally everything he sees tonight. It's going to be a treat.
Yeah, it caught me off guard. I was in the middle of the pre-race show, and I got a Snapchat from Kyle Benson. I said, what could this be? So I checked it, and he has a webcam on the brim of a hat, and it is all rigged up, giving us a first-person look at what's going on here. Following his eyes tonight to see where they go. Looks like he has, I believe that's what is that? Is that a Race Labs pulled up there? So he's got all the overlays. He knows what he's working with tonight. Got some work to do, though. He's pretty deep in the field as it stands at this moment.
Yeah, he's 24th when the field will take the green flag. Hopefully we can get the first completed green flag lap in. All of our laps so far have been run under the yellow flag. So Nicholas Baumann, just like he did on the initial start, will lead the field back to the green flag from the restart zone. Francisco Bacalhau on the outside of row number 1. Virtually nothing changed from the first several rows, apart from those drivers that were involved in the incident. Tyler Murray, Tristan Bailey, and Brandon Gillis, most notably the 3 drivers that received sustained damage. Trevor Haley also nosed into the outside wall. His car also DNF'd tonight for the Indiana native. Pace car back down, early jump from the 3rd row. Michael Walls looking to push Lawson Peel up to the front. Bacalhau clears the way for 2nd, and Baumann leads the field through turn 1.
You have to watch this as they go down into turn number 1. They saw him fan out on the initial start of the race. Wonder if guys may be on their toes a little bit better here in turn 1 after they saw what happened on the initial start of the race. They're going to try to take care of each other. I say that, and around goes Dusty Applin. Steven Maggio, no, somebody else got tagged into that. Looked like a blue race car, but Dusty Applin goes around. And another caution on lap 1, turn 1, off a restart.
It's the same story, and this time it's the sophomore Dusty Applin being involved. Heavy damage to his Can-Am Chevrolet. And the mess continues tonight from Pocono Raceway. No one has been able to escape the issues, and this time it's Applin getting his nose turned around at the exit of turn number 1. So he's on the inside of the racetrack. Here's the second look, Charlie, and of course, the idea is fan out as wide as you can, get the best run off of turn 1. That's the place with the highest amount of banking here at Pocono Raceway. This Can-Am car is on the outside from the first lap of the restart and cuts right in front of Juergensmeyer. And obviously nothing that the 2-car can do. Colin Forster, Randy Showers, they get hit alongside, and the yellow out once again.
Yeah, and you want to talk about how important exits are on this straightaway. At the end of every corner is a very, very long straightaway that you're trying to optimize your line to try to maximize. Yellow turn 1 looks pretty massive in terms of width. The racing line is actually a little bit shallower because that turn wall can, or excuse me, the exit wall can jump out at you real quick. And it seems like Dusty Applin may have not seen Jonathan Juergensmeyer below him, or was maybe trying to optimize it. But either way, carnage ensued.
Tough situation for Colin Forrester, who's had to work a ton to make some 4-wide efforts this season. Here's the onboard look. Feels devastating, Keelan, when a car spins like that in front of you and you understand there's physically nothing you can do to get out of that mess.
I think hindsight's going to be 20/20 for him right there, because if he stayed in the gas, he may have been able to drive around the outside of it, but it looked like he slammed on the brakes thinking Applin would slide up, but he slid up a little bit slower than I figured he would. But it's one of those that you just hate to see, especially when you have limited starts in the season, and this is one of your few that you've made so far. Getting damage early like that is not what you want to see, but we have made it 2 corners under green flag so far, have not made it down into the tunnel turn, so it's been smooth sailing for Nicholas Baumann so far. He's going to add to that lap lead total without even having to really do anything besides shift up to 4th gear going down into turn 1.
You know, I don't know, Charlie, if it's a good feeling being in this situation of Baumann, because yes, you do have the lead, but you haven't put a single green flag lap in. So does it feel a little bit bittersweet in the sense where, yes, you keep the lead right now, but you just haven't been able to strut your stuff 7 laps in the race?
Yeah, he's definitely waiting for some green flag laps to be waved that he can lead. But hey, I mean, a few years down the road, the stats will say that he did lead a lot of laps early in this race, so I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. But I'm sure if you're a guy like Francisco Bacalhau, who got to the back bumper immediately off the restart, looking to make a move into turn number 1, he wants to get out there. You know he has the speed, so he wants to get these laps clicked under his name.
Bacalhau, of course, hunting there, cleared himself at the exit of the front straightaway, looking to pounce on Baumann exiting turn 1. Obviously could not do so given the yellow's quick nature from the cars that went around at the exit of the corner. Dusty Applin going to give an update on the 16 car. He remains in this race for now. Same deal for Randy Showers in the 3rd car that was involved with Colin Forster. Not as much damage to either one of those cars to take them out of this race for good, but could be a huge challenge that those guys will have to work through. Almost a sense of community in trying to get themselves back into this race with still a long way to go. Bauman has led more than 10 laps on 5 different occasions in his 4-wide career. His most of 32 earlier this year at the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. That was late in the goings of Season 7, his rookie season, in which he made the 4-wide playoffs. And out of those races in which he has led a good amount of laps, at least 12 at the minimum, 32 at the most, he's had 2 top 10 finishes, his most recent coming with 5th place, September 2024, which I believe was Bauman's first ever 4-wide start back then in Season 7. So for this 88 car, a chance to lead some more laps. This one will be lap 8, ticked down on the board. We'll be completing lap number 9 with the Pennsylvania native at the front. They'll double up with Bacalhau on the outside of the front row. Bacalhau just trying to hold off from the pressure that could come from the inside of row number 2 with Lawson Peel and Andretti Robinson making his first ever 4-wide start. So a big warm welcome to Andretti Robinson, a name that made the Eliminator Chase standings for the championship in the ESAC Cup Series that we covered here on the KBueno Racing Network. So good to see Robinson in this series as well. Eric Schaefer running top 5. Michael Walls has stepped into P6. Mikey Neal up in 7th. Craig Lauenslager, Steven Maggio, and AJ Green round out the rest of the top 10. And how big of a night would it be for the several-time winner last season, Steven Maggio, the New York native, to be able to move up to the front, given his struggles last week at Bristol Motor Speedway. So a shallow trip back to turn 3 in the shallowest banking we see throughout this entire 2.5-mile tricky triangle, where that sign at the exit of the corner says, what turn 4? There's a lot of debate on how many turns there are at Pocono. I like to keep myself structured and say there are only 3, but, you know, a lot of drivers will give you differing opinions, especially the former race winner here in Jaden Porter. He claims there are 5. Porter has to start this one from way back in the field. A deep start for the Kentucky native. He's going to be 24th at this green flag restart. Good jump from the National Guard Chevrolet. No way in which Bacalhau can clear himself for second. A solid push from the second place car on the inside row. Lawson Peel looks for the lead in turn 1, Charlie.
And Lawson Peel coming off a big performance, washes up just a little bit. Francisco doing a little squeezing there, trying to optimize his line around the outside. And like I said, exits are so important. This long straightaway is going to prove why you're going to need to optimize your exits off of each and every corner, no matter how different it is. And this is that tunnel turn that can really mess drivers up. It's another big corner where you're trying to get all the way up to the wall and almost a spinner on the back.
Some trouble. Cars fan out. We stay green. And there's the yellow flag all the way at the back. Spinner as they're trying to get around, and I believe several other cars may have been involved near the rear. Chris Fowler slow on the racetrack, exiting that final corner. And it appears the New Jersey native of CJ Munier, that New Jersey Red Devils hockey-inspired paint scheme, he seems to have found trouble as they exited the tunnel turn for the very first time. Maybe we'll do this in steps, guys. Another yellow. Here's the replay. And there's that red and black Chevrolet of Munier running behind Curtis Kelly. And it seems like there was help. Christopher Bishop giving him the touch. And Munier going for the spill.
Looked like he almost had it saved, but when you get down on the bumps down there under that dashed yellow line down there, it becomes such a bumpy surface down there. Even if you're going half throttle down there, it's so easy to just lose the car. So Munier locks it down to try to avoid contact with any wall right there. But it was a good qualifying effort for that 89 tonight. I believe it was 17th. So you saw it right there. It looked like Curtis Kelly maybe came down just a tad in front of him, and that's no wrongdoing of Kelly, just kind of trying to protect his position, plant that dirty air in front of Munier. Munier had to slow up a little bit more than he wanted to and act up right into the back bumper of Christopher Bishop. Just one of those racing deals where everybody's kind of on top of each other going into the tunnel turn right there. Causes a lot of trouble for people. So the good news for Munier, nothing more than some slid tires. May come down, get some more of them, but with the amount of caution laps we're having, we may not even break into those tires till nearly halfway in this race.
Yeah, it feels like the tire wear is not going to be a point of contention here, especially this early on in the race. And Bauman enjoying the fact that the track position continues to freeze up through the first half lap. We got through turn number 1 clean this time. We didn't get through turn 2 as easily. Good job for Munier to keep it out the inside wall, so his race will continue as some drivers visit pit road for the first and maybe second, third, fourth time tonight through all these yellows that we've had, freezing up the track position. Well, one of those drivers on pit road is Kentucky's Jaden Porter, who is just a few miles away from that devastating, tragic plane crash from the UPS Worldport at the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. Porter, as a behalf of that, he is repping a special UPS paint scheme in honor of the crash and, of course, in honor of the lives lost and in paying tribute to the tragic accident that happened yesterday afternoon. And Porter himself, a UPS employee, so he had clocked out of work, Charlie, in the few hours before the crash had occurred at around 5:13 p.m. Eastern. So we're obviously thankful here at our 4Wide family that we continue to have Jaden Porter with us, and thankfully was nowhere near that accident. But of course, our hearts heavy with the families and those that were involved in that tragic crash that happened yesterday.
Yeah, and a very local witness to that accident as well. We saw in our private KBueno Racing Discord, he did share a photo of the smoke flumes. So once again, a very local resident to that area, and obviously a UPS employee honoring the tragedy yesterday afternoon. It's a good gesture from him.
He's one of several drivers with the tributes to those lives lost. Francisco Bacalhau, of course, one of them as well. He's got the flight number on the back end of his Celsius Toyota Camry. You can just faintly see it from this onboard shot with Andretti Robinson. There's the UPS logo and has the flight number as well. Of course, paying tribute in remembrance to that tragic loss that we had yesterday afternoon as the investigation continues to develop and we find out new information about how and why that situation had occurred. It was a flight that was going over to Honolulu in Hawaii with tons of packages to send over there to the Pacific end. And unfortunately, the crash had turned into a huge fiery ball by the time it exited the runway as we get ready for this next green flag restart here at lap 12. So Bauman will continue to see himself at the front. Bacalhau will continue to try and fight for second place on the outside of row 1. And it's Andretti Robinson, Eric Schaefer sliding up to third and fourth on the inside and outside of row 2. Bit of a drop-off there from that first half lap with Lawson Peel, so he'll try and get himself back in contention. But Keelan, it just seems that everyone's in their own zone and they're just waiting for this race to continue and drop off. Hopefully they're anticipating a green flag run at some point. They haven't used their tires, they haven't used their skills just yet. It's just all about waiting for that caution.
Yeah, that's what these guys are going to try to hope for, some green flag racing to get this thing going. Maybe not Nicholas Bauman. Maybe Nicholas just wants to go through turn 1, maintain his lead, and these cautions keep happening all the way to the checkered flag. He may not even have to visit pit road, but I know everybody in this field wants some green flag racing to get things organized. You see Bauman, Bacalhau remain on the front row. That has not changed since the start of this race. Andretti Robinson back in third, making his debut. Talked about in the past, Kenneth, about how debuts here in 4Wide, they typically come with a little bit of good luck. So Andretti Robinson going to try to find that good luck for himself. If he can put it in victory lane, it would not be the first time we see a rookie make their debut and get it done. Most recent debut that had a pretty good run, I think back to Richmond, Cosmin Yunoshu put together a race in that number 20 car. He led a lot of laps in the early stages before he spun around in an incident. These debuts, they typically come with a little extra horsepower, it seems.
Hard to ignore that huge win from Michael Walls either from the first race of the season. His first ever piece of competition in 4Wide, apart from the duels. He ended up winning that from 9th at the exit of turn 4. He'll start on the outside of the third row here. Of course, waiting on the cue from the National Guard Chevrolet, and another swimmingly start from Nicholas Bauman. Bacalhau is looking to shut the door on Robinson entering turn 1. He does. Can he look for the lead?
Well, that's the second time he's made that move, jumping down to the bottom line behind Bauman immediately into the outside in turn number 1. He's going to try to wrap around the outside of this corner and try to get a long exit down this straightaway and perhaps put up a draft into the tunnel turn.
And he was swimming down this back straightaway, Keelan, and almost in attempts to block any sort of moves that anyone from third on back can make. Much more of a calm effort this time by the outside of the tunnel turn. Inside goes Robinson, looking for second place down to turn 3.
The 30 went a little wide there, and Robinson tried to take advantage, but it opened up the door for Eric Schaefer, who has had speed here in the past at this Pocono Raceway, to take away that third position. Michael Walls, who restarted 6th, going to try to make himself a home in 4th as they come off turn 3. All that speed that you're carrying off turn 3 is down the nearly runway long front straightaway. You got to carry a lot of momentum down into this first corner. The hardest braking zone of the night is down into turn number 1, and they take it for the first time at speed here. We'll see who plays it the best, as we see Ethan Fonseca Moreno back there in the 92, who did not get a qualifying lap in, starting to make up some track position by everybody having their incidents, as Francisco Bacallao taking a look for the lead into the tunnel turn.
Looking for the first lead change since basically before this race started, and new race leader here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, but not before Bauman can make an effort to respond in turn 3.
And down to the inside, this is a very long, sweeping corner. You don't want to wash up here because that wall can jump out at you really quick. Nicholas Bauman comes off the final corner and loses 2 spots. Here comes Eric Schaefer, and how about Andretti Robinson making a start tonight?
Look at all those colorful cars as they run mostly single file back to turn 1, and the new race leader, Bacallao, will enjoy the clean air for the first time all night long. Rips the high side in 1. Andretti Robinson shuts down the door on the rookie Michael Walls, and it's Eric Schaefer who somehow took second away from everyone else in the midst of the entire situation. Bauman had wiggled loose. Now Peel looks to the inside. Potential 3 wide to turn 2.
Into the tunnel turn. This is the sketchiest portion of the racetrack to go in side by side, because you all have to come off this tunnel turn down into turn number 3 here. Lawson Peel gets clear. Lautensager makes a move on Bauman, as Bauman sinking like a rock right now. Stephen Maggio to the very bottom of that racetrack. And this turn 3, you can kind of run bottom, you can run top, but the further up you are, if you can pinch that exit of the car below you down off, you can get a lot more momentum down this really long straightaway, and that is what some people are going to be trying to do. As we kind of see shades of Indianapolis here, Kenneth. The early stages of Indianapolis, it was Francisco Bacallao leading, Eric Schaefer, who sat in second for the longest time. Schaefer unfortunately caught a speeding penalty there on pit road, and it cost him a shot at this victory, but it's very similar to what we saw at that Indianapolis Speedway.
There's our Charlie Beyer photography onboard look with the race leader, Francisco Bacallao, who stepped up in prime time here last season before getting wrecked in turn 3 on the final lap, chasing down his teammate Jaden Porter, and what a race that was. At the exit of turn 2, it was priming up to be a side-by-side battle all the way to the line. Unfortunately, it was not the case. Bacallao continues to lead as we push forward. And as the field is singled out here, Charlie, it's a very unique Pocono Raceway. What is it like to drive this track? What are the challenges as this field comes around?
Yeah, as we know, this track is called the Tricky Triangle. These drivers are driving into turn number 1, modeled after the late Trenton International Speedway, which was based in Trenton, New Jersey, of course. A very unique racetrack that had a kink in the back straightaway in which we were turning right. But this was modeled after one of the corners, a very long, wide, and deep corner that you're able to dive right into. It's almost like dropping a few stories. Down the long first straightaway after turn number 1, you're diving into this corner based off of and modeled after the world-famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a track that Francisco had a lot of success at. I'm sure he has no problem getting through there as well. Down the shortest straightaway on the racetrack, it's almost like a short shoot after the previous corner that is modeled after Indianapolis. Down to the final corner, modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. If you've ever seen a race at Milwaukee Mile, it's definitely not to scale. This corner is a lot more big, the radius is a lot bigger and a lot more sweeping, but it is the same banking angle. As we approach the start-finish line, the yellow flag is out.
And trouble, Colin Forrester is the man involved, turn 3. Second time we see the Florida native involved, and I think this one could possibly take him out.
Looks like a ton of damage on the nose of that race car. On the left side, driver's side. As we'll look to see what happened to him in that third corner to put a lot of damage on that 99 car. Looks like his suspension may be okay. Now, we don't know if his wheels at 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock or what. But you see him tucked in behind Curtis Kelly. Good friend of his right there. Brandon Banks to the inside of him. Jonathan Jorgensmeyer a little further back there. Looks like Banks just slid up off the bottom end of Forrester. And Forrester nearly had it saved, but a hard overcorrect spun him around driver's side first, pancaking that outside wall.
Here's another look from the aerial shot, giving the push to Curtis Kelly. Those two fellow teammates, good friends. And alongside Brandon Banks, 2 Gs in this series. As you rewind the VCR, an easy look at what happens to the 99 of Colin Forrester. Takes that spill to the outside wall. And like we said, the first accident wasn't enough to dock him out of this race. Suspension damage here may be the ultimate doer at the end of this one. And Forcer, in his return to 4 wide, has been a little more sparse over the last few seasons, made several starts in Season 7. But here in Season 8, we haven't seen the former winner of this series in enough action, as here comes the field on pit road, and a surprising call here, Charlie, for Francisco Bacalhau. He'll stay out, and the whole field will come in.
How about that? A lot of hesitation there approaching pit road, but Eric Schaefer is going to lead them all in. Francisco Bacalhau and Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Right now, I'm seeing are the only 2 cars who stayed out, Kenneth, and that's a bold strategy for these guys.
It's a bold strategy for Bacalhau, but maybe not bold enough to consider him a fish in dead water. As everyone will come down, jacks are up, most drivers taking 4. Andretti Robinson looks for 2. He'll be the first out of pit road this time by Lawson Peele, Steven Maggio, and Connor Trafari. Alongside Eric Schaefer, they'll start to end out of pit road. So that makes it 5 total cars that stay out. Bacalhau, Moreno, Kelly, Schumacher, and Jaden Porter, who had a deep start to this race and is looking for any way to get some sort of track position. But I wouldn't call this a horrible call, Keelan, because we've seen old tires be quite stout, especially when runs develop, and at tracks like these where it's all about the track position and less about the abrasiveness of the surface. And while, yes, Pocono does wear down the tires, it's not one of those tracks where, you know, it's a Homestead Miami or a Chicagoland or an Iowa Speedway where those tires go away in very quick time. This one you can hold on to the old rubber for a little longer, and for Schumacher, not surprising to see him take this call after he went the alternative route last week at Bristol to lead a few laps.
Yeah, I don't mind the call at all, staying out. Now the question is, how does this kind of affect your fuel game and how that pans out? It's a 75% fuel fill. The tanks aren't filled too full, so it's going to be interesting to see what the fuel window is. Maybe we could get Francisco up in here and ask him.
We'll see if we can talk to the driver of the number 30 machine as he gets ready for this next green flag restart. And our in-race analyst joins us now from the top spot on the front row to the green flag stretch. Francisco, it's been a solid race so far. I mean, you've stayed in second until one of the last few restarts. You end up taking the lead. What have you taken away so far from this race, and what was the idea to stay out here?
Well, I thought more people would probably stay out under this caution than maybe the ones that ended up doing so. It's a similar situation as Indianapolis. The track position is going to matter a whole lot, and I know that the biggest fear on this run isn't so much as tires or whatever advantage they might have with the tires. That's not the biggest fear. It's more so the fuel advantage they now have. They can't one stop unless they get caution assistance, but now we have to make sure that we do our part in trying to maximize whatever we can with this alternative strategy, and obviously try to keep the track position while we have it.
So Pocono is one of those venues where, like Bristol, you can sort of keep track position for as long as you can hold it from these old tires. How big do you expect this drop-off to be, and do you expect it to be maybe a bit more level than we expected?
I think it shouldn't be too prevalent because one isn't that way in general. You can probably lose about half a second between the first lap and the final lap of a run if it went green, but we had a good amount of caution laps there, so I just don't think the fall-off tire wear-wise is all that extreme. So maybe it'll help them out a little bit, but I don't think it'll play too much of a role. I think the bigger factor will be the fuel.
All right, Francisco, appreciate the time. Best of luck on this green flag restart.
Thank you.
That's Francisco Bacalhau looking for his second victory of the season after winning Indianapolis and his first here at this tricky triangle. So he'll lead the field from the outside of row 1, and it's a very familiar name on the inside of the front row. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who's won the last 2 in a row. He's won 4 this season. He stays out alongside his teammate. And then Jaden Porter at the exit of the top 5 with Schumacher and Curtis Kelly to sprinkle in through the middle. 5 drivers stay out on old tires, the rest on the fresh attacking rubber. Green flag restart a quarter of the way through Pocono. And look at the fan out to turn 1, Keelan. 3 wide. Porter, Peele, and Robinson in the first corner.
You got to be careful here on these new tires. We saw in the initial start of the race the cold tires causing incidents of stacking up and jabbing the brake, spinning your car out. That is what these people have to avoid. But Francisco is going to get a nice gap out there, and the 5 who stayed out remain top 5 through the first corner, and that is a big win for them. If they lost that track position in the first corner, that advantage would be to those new tire guys just like that.
Huge
as we
crash.
see big
Michael
trouble.
Walls, Nicholas Baumann involved at the exit of the tunnel turn, and Craig Launslager Jurgensmeyer in it as well. A rookie and a sophomore taken out at the exit of the tunnel turn. And there's Michael Walls.
That's your Daytona winner there. And how about Nicholas Baumann, your pole sitter, collected in that one? That's a tough incident coming through the tunnel turn. We'll have to see a replay and see exactly what happened. It doesn't seem like a heap of damage on that number 88, but I guess on the back end, once he got that camera rolled around. But we'll have to take a look at what happened here. This all started in the tunnel turn, and maybe there was a stack up when it came to Andretti Robinson and the cars on the fresh tires, but we'll get a look overhead here.
There's that National Guard Chevrolet, the pole sitter, Baumann leading a few laps early, then giving up the lead, and through this cycle down pit road, lost a few more spots. And again, it's off the back end of Steven Maggio wanting to skate through the tunnel turn, Keelan. But like we saw with Tyler Murray entering turn 1, you just don't anticipate the car in front to slow down as much. And then when you see them slow down, you hop on the brakes in quick time. The car weight shifts, and it sends you for the side. And for Michael Walls, unfortunate end to his race as he gets a hard hit from both ends at the exit of turn 2.
Very similar to the CJ Munier incident where we got down into the tunnel turn. Everybody kind of stacks up, and you're not anticipating it. Just one tap from the rear and shoot you around and put you in trouble. Michael Walls probably got the worst of it there. The 60 car, pretty bad damage there. You see the left front not even making any rotations as he tried to limp it back to pit road. I'd be surprised if he didn't have to tow that thing. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, he went for a loop, but I don't think he got much damage. It was off the bumper of Jesse Prees right there. It would have been a great view to be on Kyle Benson's first-person camera through that one. He kind of scooted through everything right there as he went to the bottom to avoid all of that. But here we see these guys hitting pit road again a little further back. The guys a little further back, topping off on fuel. The more caution laps that come, the more times you come down pit road, the closer you get to a possible one-stop strategy. I don't think it's viable yet, but we get closer and closer to that number with these caution laps.
And like Francisco said, the difference in fuel is going to be very large in discrepancy from those who stayed out, and then, of course, those who just came in for that splash of fuel alongside the Goodyear Eagles. That should hopefully take them through a good distance of this race. They just have to wait and see what may happen, but Bacalhau will enjoy the time for the moment as he'll lead a few more laps in his search for his first ever win from this Pocono Raceway. So as we stay under the yellow flag once more, we've seen a lot of those come out tonight, similar to the action at Bristol Motor Speedway not too long ago. It's really just a matter of putting yourself in the right place at the right time. And I'd imagine not a lot of time, Charlie, for a lot of the guys like Lawson Peel and the fresh tire cars to move their way up through, maybe a corner or two, but it was a good defense by Andretti Robinson to stay up front, hold that wall up for the old tire cars.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, in the few green flag laps that we've been able to put down when these drivers went down and took their fresh set of tires, they weren't able to make a whole lot of progress on that restart. The top 5 is still pretty much the same as when we restarted with the drivers who stayed out. So, and obviously the fresher tires and people trying to make their way up through the pack caused the stack up that caused the wreck. So maybe pitting is a more dangerous call, if you will, than staying out and trying to protect that track position while we run under the yellow flag.
So another quick yellow will remain single file. Drivers will stay behind the iRacing official pace car for the moment. Let's see if we can try to get a word with one of the drivers in this current running top 5. That is Canada's Curtis Kelly, who was in his hometown race earlier this season at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, now running top 5 in the Ohana Stitch car that he rode with last week at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Curtis, how has this race shaped out for you? It feels like one call here has put you in a good spot, and with all these yellows, it seems like track position is going to matter even more than we thought it would.
Yeah, definitely. Just felt like the tires were still had a lot of life left in them, so no sense pitting early when the track position was just sitting there in front of us. Saw Ethan stay out, so I decided to make the call with him, and here's hoping we can just keep it out ahead of the madness happening behind us.
You had a struggle last week at Bristol. Obviously a tough race for many of those, including yourself. How do you try and rebound at a track that seemingly provides its own set of challenges and get back righted on this season looking for a title?
Just focus on keeping it clean, really. Just consistency throughout the run, not burning your stuff up too early, but just trying to be there at the end. That's the story every week.
Well, Curtis, hopefully you're one of those drivers in contention for the win at the end. Best of luck here on this restart.
Appreciate it.
That's Curtis Kelly, a member of the Overcorrect Racing team, a group that had rebranded from the Not Stonks but Still Kind of Stonks team and the official Stonks Motorsports group. They had merged after those teams went on for a near team championship run, and that Not Stonks but Still Kind of Stonks group ended up with the owner's title after Brandon Hawken dominated, won 9 races, and carried that team to a 4-wide title, not only as an individual driver, but bringing the team championship home as well. So Kelly on the outside of row number 2 as we get ready for the restart. It's Moreno and Bacalhau, this time flip-flopped. Bacalhau will choose the inside of the front row. Moreno has to wait from the outside of that same place. Lap 25 of 80, ready to be complete here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And a great start by the teammates. 1, 2, 3. BBR cars back to turn 1. And there's the run for second.
You see him down on the straightaway here. Moreno trying to get that run on the top side around Schumacher. Going to make it work for now, as now Porter making a move to the outside of Schumacher down into this tunnel turn. It's hard to see which lane really has the advantage going in. It's definitely the bottom, but look at that run. Porter gets off the top of the tunnel turn to make that pass right there, put himself in a podium position as Curtis Kelly, the first on the tires, start to slip back. Andretti Robinson ripping the fence up there in turn number 3, trying to get all the run he can down this long straightaway.
Remember, all of these cars, apart from Lawson Peel, they are on the old set of Goodyear Eagles, so the Axalta Chevrolet running 7th, still yet to puncture his way into this group of guys that are just hanging on for the time being. Battle back in turn 1. Schumacher will hold the wall up on Andretti Robinson as here peaks low. Lawson Peel in the search for 6, denied at the exit of the corner.
Yeah, they're holding that wall up strong from the guys with fresh tires. Until Andretti passed Curtis Kelly for the 5th position, the entire top 5 besides Francisco Bacalhau started outside of the top 15. So these drivers trying to do all they can to defend their track position coming from deep inside the field. But based on the names that I'm seeing here, these drivers might be here to the end of the race. Drivers like Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Jaden Porter are drivers that you would typically expect to be at the front of the field on any given week. So they might be here to stay. But for the drivers behind, they're going to have a lot of work to do to keep the drivers at bay.
And Peel coming off of a top 10 run at Bristol that was certainly well earned after several mistakes and several crashes that the Columbus, Mississippi native had been involved in after Kentucky, in which it was a top 3 run behind the eventual race winner that you're on board with right now. Peel, the season 4 champion, looking to grab another top 10 and right the wrongs of his early season 8 campaign. So Moreno trails by 0.2 of a second, and this is where, Keelan, you got to dig in and find your place, because Pocono is not the easiest track to make passes at, nor is it the most multi-groove of them all, so you've got to really manage yourself in clean air, find your line, and find where you can be just that bit better than the car in front.
It's so hard at a track like Pocono because there really is only one lane in a majority of these corners to have to work, so you kind of have to run right in the tire tracks to that guy in front of you. And with these next gens and how they race, especially in the real life side of things, that is where you are plagued with dirty air. But down these straightaways, that's where you want to be. You want to follow that draft, pull yourself up as much as you can. But I think we're starting to get to that point, especially for the top 2, where that clean air is really going to be an advantage for Francisco.
Here's a nice battle for 21st on the racetrack as Christopher Bishop, Michael Newbraw, and the sophomore Dusty Applin go at it. 2 Chevrolets and a Ford at the exit of turn 1. Bishop, the Muncie, Indiana native, at 54 years old in his 8th 4-wide season. A driver who's been certainly a veteran with these 4-wide drivers. As Applin makes a move on the inside, Bishop will let him go And a lot of good runs inside this top 15. We mentioned the standout performances for both Juan Escamilla, his best career 4-wide finish on an oval last week, and then the stunner of Daniel Moore, who's running 13th right now, looking to back up a good finish with another top 15, and Tony Kibbett right in front in 12th. How about the run from these guys?
Yeah, they do pretty well tonight. And momentum is a big thing when it comes to sim racing. And Daniel Moore especially wants to build off of his last race at Bristol. And the performance that he put on there goes for a slide. Is he going to save it? Yes, he does, in the way of Jonathan Juergensmeyer. That's a big slide off the corner. I hope I didn't jinx him there, Kenneth.
And they're going to be near 4 wide. And they are. Mikey Neal to the inside. Shut down by Munier. They're still 3 abreast. This is all for top 15 track position out in turn 2.
My goodness, they are all over each other right here, swimming down these straightaways and off these corners as they try to start to figure things out. There you see Munier trying to recover from that spin earlier. Nicholas Baumann, who was involved in a yellow. They're all trying to recover here. Daniel Moore, meanwhile, in the 77, just kind of biding his time right now. Putting together a solid run to this point as there you see him bounce off the fence in turn number 3, and everybody kind of fans out for a second, but now we're going to get single filed out. Everybody calming down here down the front straightaway before you see him fan back out down in turn number 1.
What a save by Daniel Moore. Holds on to his I am second Thousand Islands Corvette Ford Mustang, and he holds on as he runs 18th. Currently at lap number 30 with 50 laps to go. You're running with the 09 car. This is the 13th place machine of Connor Trafari, a driver who won the SAC Cup Series Championship not that long ago, broadcasted here on the KBueno Racing Network, but making his first trip to Pocono Raceway in 4-wide action since 2020, where he finished 9th in that race, his first and only ever trip to this track apart from tonight, and a driver who hasn't picked up a top 10 since August 12, 2020. His first top 10 this season came at 7th place last week at Bristol Motor Speedway. So it was sort of interesting to see Charlie Connor back on the entry list, a driver who's still relatively young, competing in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series these days, but a young driver that was in 2020 running in the 4-wide group looking for wins.
Yeah, it's good to see people come back after some time off, and maybe that time off consists of school or racing other race leagues, but they eventually found his way back here. And I think Connor's a driver who definitely adds to the depth of the 4-wide roster. You, me, and Keelan and Francisco both know up here in the booth that this is a very competitive field and a very fierce competition every single week. And I think Connor Trafari, the driver that he is, as consistent and as smooth as he is, he definitely adds to that depth and the competitiveness. So it'll be fun to watch him over the course of the season.
Tonight in his 14th 4-wide start, as there's contact in the top 10. Maggio tussles with Schaefer, sending him sliding through turn 3, and a wonderful save by the Hampton, Virginia native will stay green.
That's incredible, and he's going to get that car back up to speed. He nearly came to a dead stop right there in turn number 3, saving that race car. Really surprised there was no yellow there, but we take a look at what happened there. We saw the story right there. Maggio looked underneath Schaefer at the same time as Benson looked under Maggio, and they all kind of meet on each other's quarter panel right there. Maggio kind of got saved by the 3 car and the 38 car. Schaefer had nobody to his outside to save him right there, but you saw the story right there. Everybody trying to make a move on everybody, and somebody's going to meet somebody in the quarter panel. That's what happened right there. Short end of the stick for Eric Schaefer.
And after Schaefer had been running top 10 for a good majority of this race, his car going to be tailed back in the midst of the top 15 and even outskirts of the top 20. 25th is where he'll drop in one fell swoop after that one cause of accident that nearly brought out another yellow flag with just 48 laps to go. Maggio holds on to his Toyota Camry here, 10th, with AJ Green spoiling the party right in front in 9th, and Kyle Benson just staying where he's at, P8, running down Curtis Kelly in the top 7. And the theory for the old tire cars, it's paying out quite well. Charlie, the only fresh tire car to make inroads is Andretti Robinson. He slides up to 4th, en route to maybe passing Jaden Porter for podium position. But apart from that, everyone else on the fresh tires struggling to make their way through the front.
I think Andretti, like you said, is the only driver who's been able to make up solid ground after taking tires. Granted, he only took 2, so it's not that big of a difference, but it also has to you also have to take into account the few laps that we actually ran under the green flag, and I would estimate maybe only about 5 laps for your race leaders who did not come to pit road under that yellow flag. So not a big tire lapse when it comes to wear. So Andretti Robinson is a little bit stagnant right now, but it's up to the back bumper of Jaden Porter getting a face full of UPS and, well, hopefully make him move here soon for him.
And that tire advantage, Charlie, it is something that these guys feel like they have back here with Andretti and those guys behind him. But remember what Francisco said when we pulled him up here. He's more concerned about the fuel advantage these guys have. And you think back to the super speedways. I kind of mentioned it in the keys earlier, how you can kind of shape this up like a super speedway because you don't lose a lap when you come down for a green flag pit stop. These guys are going to be able to shorten their stops just by a little bit. They're not going to need a full tank both times they come down. It's not a one stop from here, but these guys who have not yet to pit so far, they're going to have to come down and probably get a full tank of fuel and spend just a little bit more time on pit road filling that tank up. Some of these other guys, they may be able to save a couple seconds by only taking the fuel they need, possibly 2 tires and half the tank, and that could be what gets them to the end, and that could turn into seconds on the racetrack. So that is something we'll have to keep our eyes on as well.
It's going to be crucial, especially if these old tire cars can make it to halfway, but the only caveat is they'll be in that same position that Mikey Neal and a couple other drivers were in at Kentucky Speedway. Remember back then a couple weeks ago how they had stayed out, the race turned out to go green, they didn't have a yellow to be a safety net, if you will. In turns, they had to come down pit road, they fell a lap down, and they just struggled to get back onto pace for the rest of the night as Kentucky went green, and it fell through the green flag strategy, giving that win to Moreno at the end. So for Bacalhau, Kelly, and a bulk of these other guys that have stayed out, does that provide any sort of trouble as we're 5 laps from halfway?
Go ahead. Well, I'm not sure. I think they're in an okay situation. The most I would be concerned about is that fuel, and if they have to fill this tank up, slap fuel on pit road, and they start to lose some of that track position. I think that is where the biggest disadvantage lies and the biggest open wound in their strategy right now, this alternate strategy. I think overall on tires and as they are and, you know, racing with the cautions, they're in a good situation. It's hard to predict from as far out as we are right now with everybody still needing at least 2 pit stops, I believe, to get to the checkered flag. It's kind of hard to put the number in there and when cautions would need to fall and when green flag racing would need to fall. It's just kind of, you know, caution comes out, and that's where you are in that moment. You're in that situation where you don't really know what's going to happen until it's there, but I mean, the fact is you don't lose a lap on green flag pit stops here. So at least when you're up within like 5-7 seconds of the race leader, you shouldn't lose a lap on pit road. So I just feel like it's an advantage to spend the least amount of time on pit road as you possibly can. And that is what these guys who have already been to pit road could be setting themselves up for.
Well, it's a long delta here at Pocono Raceway, so be wary of any pit road speeding penalties, anything that could add on to the clock when you come in and out of the pit lane for your stop. Great battle building up for 8th place. Just saw those 2 passes done on Curtis Kelly. The old tires are starting to come true for the 71, and he's reaching that cliff point. Connor Trafari making his move on the outside. Could be the calling card for some of the first few to visit pit road. Again, if you can go halfway, understanding how long these drivers have gone, it could be a chance for them to cut this race in half, and the race leader is in alongside Kelly and alongside the 2nd place car in Moreno.
They're just barely going to be able to make it to lap 40 here, the halfway point in this race. We'll see if they're able to stretch this tank out all the way into the end or if it's going to be a 2-stopper for them. But either way, the drivers who did take fuel and come down the pit road under that yellow flag, they're definitely going to be good. This could be potentially a 1-stop race for them if this were to go green, of course.
And there's Bacalhau, 4 tires on his Toyota Camry. Tyler Murray, as he continues repairs, will be just watching these cars come in and out. There's Curtis Kelly on his way through. Moreno ends up out as well. 4 tire call for all of those machines, and the one standing car who's on the old tires, it's Jaden Porter, new race leader, 2 laps before halfway.
I think he will have to come in soon enough, but I think he has a little bit more fuel in the tank, because if we think back to the first couple yellow flags of this race in the first 10 laps, we saw him lose all that track position really early because he did not get a qualifying lap in, so he probably topped off on one of those early yellow flags and has a bit more fuel in the tank, and not sure how many more laps that'll be. He will probably have to come before the Andretti, Robinson, and bunch have to come in for service, but right now just biding his time, leading the laps while he can. If a caution were to come out in this moment, Porter is in a pretty good situation, and his strategy worked out perfectly because everybody is going to come down for service along with him, and he'll have that track position to his advantage.
And you'd imagine that the first group is looking at Jaden Porter and is asking, if you're on what we on, how are you staying out this long to be past halfway at the front of this field? But Porter, understanding his situation, that he started at the back, chances he could take to come down pit road, but he's being hounded right now by the driver in his debut race, and Andretti Robinson looking from the outside, attempting the crossover at the exit of turn 1, and with lap traffic on the horizon, Robinson could make the charge. Now Porter sends the feint block. Robinson pushes him down the back straightaway to the tunnel turn.
And we're seeing Jaden Porter's urgency to defend this position. He's done a great job of holding Andretti Robinson at bay. He's been at him for almost 10 laps at this point, at least since the drop of the green flag, when he was able to move inside of the top 5 and now inside of the top 2. So Jaden Porter definitely is going to want to, or it's in his best interest, at least in his mind, to keep Andretti at bay, and he's doing a great job of doing so here. But we'll see off this run off the corner if he can get a little bit of momentum off the outside, take a shot to the inside.
Porter giving his effort wholeheartedly, but it's the rookie trying to stand out here at Pocono. Robinson waves back, an attempt at a pass in turn 1, and he'll work with the 28 car back into the corner with Alex Schumacher running third. That's another driver that could be a spoiler in this strategy, Keelan. Much like Jaden Porter, Schumacher is on a 30-lap stint. That's only 8 laps more than all the other drivers around. That includes Robinson, Pio, Benson, and practically the rest of this field, apart from those former race leaders that just came down pit road. So now we're past halfway. This is the point in which that 28 and the 68 could stretch themselves out from the crowd as they come around the lap traffic. Daniel Moore in turn 3 and make this one-stop decision for pit road.
I'm just glad I'm not on that racetrack right now, Kenneth, because you got to think on iRacing here, you are your own driver and you are your own crew chief, having to make those decisions. You don't have anybody up there helping to make those decisions for you. And right now, my head would be in knots trying to figure out how to get to the checkered flag of this thing if this race were to go green as it stands right now. And all these drivers out here on the racetrack right now are having to go over that in their heads right now. I'm just glad I'm not out there, Kenneth. This would be one race that I would not like to do strategy-wise. I'd be all over the place.
Yeah, you really don't envy the position of these drivers. There's the onboard look from the Auto Club Speedway winner, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, chasing down Tony Kivet in a season best race for the 76. Kivet running in the top 9 right now, trailing behind AJ Green. And it's going to be an interesting call for these guys, but I'd imagine, Charlie, it's a much easier decision than those in the race lead that had to come down with Bacalhau Moreno and Curtis Kelly, understanding they were just short of halfway. Not sure how much they can make it from the rest of the way through, but these guys, knowing they're past this crucial point of the event, now that it's gone green, they can just have one pit stop, run the 35-ish laps to the end, and they should beat Golden. Jurgensmeyer hoping he can be one of those cars at the front when this race is all said and done.
It's definitely going to be a golden opportunity for them to finish this race in a good spot should it go green all the way into the end. That's not a given, of course, in iRacing as a whole, but they're in a pretty good spot to play the what-if game if it were to go green this entire way through. So people like Jonathan Jurgensmeyer are going to be in a pretty good spot come towards the end here.
And there's Bacalhau coming off turn 3. He's 22nd, with Moreno back 23rd, Curtis Kelly 24th. Now, the crucial thing here is that this track is 2.5 miles long, so it's not one of those places where you can easily fall a lap down to the leaders, but look at Curtis Kelly out in the far foreground with Jaden Porter and Andretti Robinson, this battle for the lead that's shaping up in turn number 1. Those are the leaders that can go by. The fresh tire difference is large. However, we haven't seen fresh or old tires play that big of a factor here tonight. So big question mark as to who may fall a lap down, which drivers are at the better end of strategy, and which guys have to circle around or else they'll end up with no boo, otherwise no trophy. Here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Porter the race leader, Robinson second, Schumacher running in third. And as we continue through halfway here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, let's go through the field on the KBueno Racing Network. Let's start with the Louisville, Kentucky native of Jaden Porter as he cycles through in the race lead on the oldest set of tires, and a situation in which Porter is looking for his second consecutive Pocono victory and looking good right now. Here comes Robinson, though, back for the fight on the inside, keeling to turn 1.
Here goes Robinson to the inside, trying to take that race lead away as you see it. There he goes, taking that spot away. He was working on Porter all through these laps right here for an opportunity to take it. Now the 45 has moved himself into the race lead. We've seen the trends in the past, Kenneth, here. Rookies in their debut race typically have a lot of success here in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. So you see Andretti Robinson put himself in the race lead. Alexander Schumacher in a 68 was running in third, has made his trip down to pit road. We'll see how that cycles him out. Clean in, clean out. That's the goal.
And now the 45 on the freshest set of tires in the midst of this group will take the lead. Does that bring the former champion of this series down pit road? The answer, Charlie, is yes. The Kentucky native in this time.
Here he comes. He'll give the lead to Andretti Robinson. Andretti started 5th in this race. A good qualifying effort. He'll take the first spot, but here's Jaden Porter down to the pit road. This is going to give him an opportunity potentially to make it all the way on fuel. The jacks go up. Is he going to take 4? But what's in his mind right now for sure is that he's going to be able to basically cruise to the end if this race goes green.
That is 4 tires for Jaden Porter, so he comes out of pit road just past halfway. He could theoretically make it to the end of this race, given the longest stretch that was employed by Bacalhau, Moreno, and Curtis Kelly. And an update for those 3 drivers, they haven't really gained much. Porter is back in 20th, but his teammates, Bacalhau, Moreno, sit 21st and 22nd. Schumacher right behind that group in 23rd place. So one more pit stop left to go for this field here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and this lead is large. 3.7 seconds. Keelan back to Lawson Peel, who's searching for his second top 3 finish in the last 3 races, his first coming at Kentucky earlier this year. And what a drive by the hometown guy. Kyle Benson crashed out of this race last season in the playoffs, or near the midway portion of the regular season, rather, and he's having a good one tonight with Maggio not too far behind.
It is, as we see that Grillo's pickle car out here, putting together a good race for him as these guys are just trying to run into that safe fuel window to be able to come down pit road. We saw with caution assistance, those guys made it almost to halfway in the race. Porter, after topping off on fuel, made it to lap 46. So, 30-plus laps with caution assistance. The number becomes a little bit slimmer as this race goes green. So we are kind of hovering around that number where you may be able to come in and be safe, but if this thing goes green to the end, you may be having to save a little bit if you don't have any cautions helping you out. So these guys are trying to run as long as they can before they take that final trip down to pit road to where they're hopefully safe to get to the end of this thing. But Benson, Peel, a couple guys, even Maggio back there in the 51, 3 guys who historically have been very good in this 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, so far have not had the seasons to back it up. Pretty inconsistent for all 3 of them, unable to put together the results. Trying to change that tonight at Pocono, at a track where we're used to seeing these names rise to the top.
And 35 career 4-wide victories spread across these 3 drivers. Maggio having 4, Benson having 6. And then, of course, the main leader of them all, Lawson Peel, with 25 career 4-wide victories. 2 of them coming here at Pocono Raceway. One of them in the Next Gen Era Season 5, and then once with the Xfinity Series cars early in the season in Season 6, not too long ago. The last time we saw Peel in the running for the championship, at least in terms of the top 3, he made it to the Championship 5 last season at Homestead of Miami, and alongside Jaden Porter got involved in a crucial restart crash involving Chris Fowler, which basically took them out of contention as that race developed green. And Peel told us back at Kentucky the bittersweet nature of feeling good to finish up front, but also feeling still a bit detrimented knowing how rough this season has been. Him and Benson, those 2 veterans of this series, can share that sentiment with a chance to possibly turn this race around. But like last season, Charlie, they are chasing the rookie, and here comes the leader to pit road.
He's going to give that race lead to Lawson Peel. I want to highlight the 2 drivers in the top 2 positions in a little bit, but for Andretti Robinson, he's going to come down pit road when lap number 50, just over 30 laps to the end of this race, and that's just going to be enough in his mind to take him all the way to the end. AJ Green is out there as well. He's going to stop all the way in his pit stall, 5th pit stall from the front, as well as AJ Green. The first 2 drivers from the field who took tires under one of the yellow flags and short pit the field around them. They're going to be able to get a full tank of fuel and get to the end. But for Lawson Peel and Kyle Benson, as you said, Kenneth, these drivers are looking for a little bit of success this season. Kyle Benson is on a now 2-season winless streak, and we're going to Talladega next week, a track that he knows he can win at. But for Lawson Peel, a driver who we've known to be successful over the last few seasons, is on a bit of a dry spell, and for a track that he knows to win at, he's going to be looking for one today.
And there's Benson down pit road as he makes a stop from second place. Maggio stays out, Trafari remains out as well, and then Jurgensmeyer and the pole sitter Nicholas Baumann will round out the rest of this top 5. So it's gonna get a bit interesting here to see where everyone cycles out on this stretch of stops. Remember how Moreno, Bacalhau, Kelly and company had pitted so early in this race. Bacalhau and Moreno have moved their way up to 16th and 17th on the racetrack, and Andretti Robinson has dropped behind them to 18th on fresh tires, and Jaden Porter runs 19th with Alex Schumacher, the last of that group, in 20th place. It's going to be fun to see where everyone goes through with that final pit stop inside the last 30 here from Long Pond. Peel will curl around turn 3. Could this be the moment he steps down pit road? He's hugging the inside. The answer will be yes. Will the second place car follow? No, he won't. And Connor Trafari takes the lead.
I think we're right at that number where I'd feel really safe coming in and going all out to the checkered flag. If you pit any earlier in this, you may want to save just a little bit to try to get to the end, but you don't want to give up all that track position from saving. So being able to have that advantage of going all out, especially when as little tire fall off as we've seen today, it allows the opportunity for you to carry a lot of speed and go all out here. I think Lawson Peel, Stephen Maggio, Nicholas Baumann, everybody pitting here, it could be in a really good position when all this is said and done, as Maggio going to beat Peel off pit road. Now they're going to race back to the line here. That blue cone in turn 1 is what is going to let them go at it. You see Peel all over Maggio right here. They got passed by Francisco and company, but Peel going to slide in right behind Maggio as they race down to the tunnel turn.
I don't think Maggio kind of like that. Charlie's seeing the 12 right on his rear bumper saying, hey, let's calm down, let's try and chill, and we be vibing right after that to try and catch up to the rest of the traffic.
It's an interesting choice of words there for you, Kenneth. But, yeah, obviously, Stephen Maggio did get around Lawson Peel there on the pit lane. Lawson had his face full of M&M's caramel, I believe that's the flavor that he's driving. I'm sure Keelan has a lot of memories watching that paint scheme roll around the racetrack in real life. But it's a good pit stop for Stephen Maggio to be able to get up here and ahead of Lawson Peel, who's having a strong day. And here comes Connor Trafari outside of the pit lane. They're going to hop around both of them.
There's Trafari in and out of the pit lane. Brandon Banks to follow suit. And Trafari will drop to the top 10. It's going to be a bit of a while before the top 15 drivers get around. There's Kyle Benson. And that will hand the lead to North Carolina's Mikey Neal, who will come down pit road this time by a lap 53 of 80 in this final stretch. And as this race stays green, Keelan could be the final green flag pit stop we see, and that should bring it all around to Francisco Bacalhau on the oldest set of tires in this field alongside his teammate Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
Well, we have to remember these BBR guys, they will have to come in for service again, more than likely, because they pit right before the halfway point. There's no universe where they can really stretch that fuel all the way to the checkered flag that I am aware of. So they're in the position right now, but now about the time and about 15, 20, when they get close to that green flag pit stop, that's when they're going to want to caution to fall, because everybody would probably follow them down into pit road. Then again, maybe they wouldn't, because they've seen how those old tires have worked. It hasn't really been a disadvantage, but see this top 5 right now of all these BBR cars, and Andretti Robinson, all kind of in a position right now. But Andretti Robinson, we remember he pitted a little bit earlier than these guys too, so maybe he'll be having to save a bit of fuel, staying in Moreno's draft right now. The one I feel the safest about right now, sitting back in the 6th position, Kenneth, Stephen Maggio. That's the one I feel the most confident in being able to make it to this checkered flag. We're going to have to watch Andretti here. Doesn't sound like he's entirely in the throttle. Maybe using a bit of that draft to try and keep up with Moreno right there. Save a bit of fuel, possibly. I feel the most confident in that 51, though. He's the first one I feel like that can go all out in this situation.
And Maggio runs 6th, with only half a second separating him and the Season 4 champion of Lawson Peel while Robinson saves in an effort to later kick the top two out of contention on McAfee. And Bacalhau currently in control here from the tricky triangle with so much more of this race left to go. There's Jaden Porter, a couple tenths behind. His chance for third may still be in the cards as this race continues to move forward. Well, we mentioned going through the field earlier on, and then battle happened, and then strategy happened, so let's circle back, shall we? And we begin with the race leader, Francisco Bacalhau, who has been on a tear in Season 8 through his part-time schedule. He told us even throughout the success, all the top 10s, the top 5s, even the win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he was committed to not running full-time, and he told us many a time where he was not going to go full, he was not going to go through the rest of the schedule to run for a championship, he was going to run the part-time schedule and then join us in the booth for the rest of it. And on an interesting early call in which he stayed out alongside his teammate Ethan Fonseca Moreno, they have reaped the benefits of this call with under 35 laps to go in order to stay out front and hope that the track position and the fuel count is more than enough to bring them to the checkered. Bacalhau looking for his second four-wide victory in Season 8. He's got the race lead.
Season 6 champion Ethan Fonseca Moreno sitting back in the second position right now. Back in that sixth season, he racked together 5 victories en route to his championship, the highest he has in his career in one season. He's already got 4 in the first 8 races here. Tonight, he's looking for a 5th to even that tally to take home his 12th career victory in the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series and bring himself 1 win closer to second on the all-time win list behind Brandon Hawken. It's been an impressive start to his season, really good points-wise for him so far. Started deep in the field, climbed his way up, and now he's been second to Francisco for a majority of this race when they could get on the same strategy and out front as they run. Ethan Fonseca Moreno sits in second.
And guys, how cool would it sound to have a 100% win percentage? And for Andretti Robinson coming into this race, a driver who races predominantly in the SAC Series, which is also broadcasted on KBueno, he comes into tonight starting 5th, has led 4 laps tonight with the highest of first. That's right, he is in contention for this race win and is in the best position to do so. He is guaranteed to go all the way on the end. It's just a matter of saving fuel to get there. Andretti Robinson currently sitting on the back end of the podium.
After clocking out of the UPS Worldport yesterday afternoon, Jaden Porter had been away at home, a couple miles away from the Louisville International Airport when a tragic plane accident occurred just a few moments after. And as that investigation continues, Porter is riding with the souls lost last afternoon in that MD-11 freighter, and he's riding well with them tonight. That brown and orange and yellow Chevrolet Camaro, looking for his second Pocono victory, chasing down Andretti Robinson, and even under this strategy call, may have the freshest tires out of those inside the top 5. Keep an eye on the Season 5 champion, Jaden Porter, looking to go back-to-back and get a second victory here in Season 8.
We talked about shoe sanity with Alexander Schumacher in a 68. That sort of came to an end last week at Bristol, but he's trying to revive it tonight at Pocono. It did not look like he had that advantage in that 68 early in this race. Trying to put it together, though, as he has moved himself up into the 4th position. I believe that was the 92 of Moreno that I saw peel off onto pit road there. I know somebody up in the top 4 did peel off to pit. It was Ethan Fonseca Moreno.
And for a driver who has had a lot of past success in the 4-Wide TJ's Team Series, he comes into this season without a race win yet, only 6 starts out of the 9, or excuse me, this will make his 7th start out of the 9 so far this season. He has a pole, he has a top 5, but no race win yet for a driver that we could always expect to see at the front of a field whenever he comes into an event. So Steven Maggio currently running in at the top 5. He'll round out your top 5, but a pretty decent day from him coming from deep in the field.
Good day for Ethan Fonseca, or rather Steven Maggio. There's Ethan Fonseca Moreno coming off of turn 1. And a good point, Keelan. He had just come down pit lane, not confident inside 20 to go that he can reach the checkered flag with enough fuel in the tank. So how big of a moment could this be? And another driver has hit the pit lane. It's Francisco Bacalhau from the lead.
These guys coming down pit road here, they are not confident they can make it to the end of the race. But now they take this opportunity and they flip it, and now they are banking on a caution flag before this race is over. As you think about it, we get that caution flag, more than likely most everybody's coming down for service for at least 2 tires, and Francisco and Moreno likely would stay out in that situation, as Moreno Ops Bacayao off of pit road there. We'll now see what Jaden Porter and Andretti Robinson do. I don't believe they can stretch it to the end here, but they may be trying it here. They would be a little bit closer than those top two who just decided to peel off onto pit road did. Alexander Schumacher in a 68, as well as hitting pit road this time, and that is going to turn Steven Maggio into that third podium position as we see Lawson Peel counting him down. And how hungry are both of these guys for a race victory, Kenneth? It has been a long time since we have seen either of them in victory lane. We'd have to go back to the previous season.
For Maggio, his last win came at Nashville Superspeedway, race 16 of his rookie campaign. For Lawson, it was the first race of the playoffs that helped him get to the Championship 5 at the Virtual Auto Club Speedway in overtime fashion. And now it's the 51 and the 12 in a reignited battle inside 20 to go. And what's interesting here, Charlie, is that on 16-lap-old tires and a 16-lap-old gas tank, Jaden Porter, we rode on board with him not too long ago, is still running 100%. He's acting like he can make it to the end of this race, while Andretti Robinson is a bit more conservative. He's been saving fuel right behind that 28, so it's a mere mortal situation of who can make it. And if both of them can, if they are forced to enter pit road, how aggressive does Steven Maggio and Lawson Peel get in the battle for the net lead?
Yeah, and I think if you're not able to save all the way to the end, if you're a driver like Jaden Porter, who is burning a lot of gas right now, at this point, you might be hoping for a yellow flag, and if you are guaranteed to not make it there. But how about Steven Maggio and Lawson Peel, two hungry drivers who really want to make it to victory lane? This would be a staple victory to end the dry spell for both of them, and at a track that is pretty unpredictable. We're for drivers who we could expect to see at the front. This is pretty much what you'd expect out of these two.
Maggio has made 7 races this season of the 9 that we're running, including tonight, and only one top 10 effort. That was 3rd place back in late September at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then picked up pole last week at Bristol. It looked sound for the Cairo, New York native, and then the rear tires lit up on the opening jump, spun around and could not recover, ended up finishing 16th in that race. So for a former championship contender in Steven Maggio, in his sophomore campaign, looking to stand tall and become the 8th different winner here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, while Peel tries to put his flag back on the Pocono Mountain grounds and win his 3rd race at this track, the most of anyone here in series history. Will cross the line for 17 to go, and here's the indoor strike from the Exalta Chevrolet. Could this be for the net race lead off the final corner?
Maggio's going to get that run, kind of pinched off the exit of the 12 and down this long straightaway. That's the advantage you have. Peel looks a little bit faster right now, but Maggio keeping him at bay with that clean air he has out of his nose right now. The air that Peel has on his nose is dirty and clouded from what's coming under that rear diffuser of that 51. Like you said, Charlie, you mentioned I have fond memories with this car. It's kind of coincidental with that M&M's caramel car as we see the top 2 racing hard right here. My fondest memory with it actually was right here at the Pocono Speedway, where Kyle Busch stretched the fuel in that M&M's caramel car in 2017 to get a win at Pocono, his first ever win at Pocono, and it ended a long winless drought that was nearly a season long from 2016 into 2017. Now we talk about Steven Maggio, same paint scheme, same track, same story nearly, and what a win that could be for him if he could hold off one of the series' best in Lawson Peel. These two guys, they got very familiar with each other last year as we see Lawson Peel maybe taking a look down into turn number 1, side by side into the first corner.
And that's the same Kyle Busch, Keelan, that won a Pocono race stuck in 4th gear when that shifter didn't work and he couldn't shift down outside of the top gear. There's Peel peeking under again off turn 1. Denied for the 2nd straight lap. Maggio will hold tight by a 10th or 2. While up at the front, it's a car length between the battle for the lead and then the battle for 3rd and 4th place. It is getting tight here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. While the push continues for Porter, the save remains intact for Andretti Robinson, looking to become another edition of 4-wide history, with drivers winning in their debut. That time he lost a bit of ground to the race leader.
I'm interested to know at this point how much these two leaders are actually saving. If Andretti Robinson is maybe saving a move on Jaden Porter, staying in his draft, not all the way on the throttle to try to push his mileage as far as he came to the end of this race. Maybe Jaden Porter is simply just that in Andretti's eyes. And for the top 2 and the top 4 being both side by side. We're not sure which one is actually going to end up being the race for the race win, but we're going to keep eyes on both of them. This is close.
And that's a change on the audio side of things, Keelan. The moments of silence that were in between the corners for Andretti Robinson, it's gone now. He's running like he would any other lap. It seems maybe not pushing as hard as he would on Jaden Porter. He could definitely go at it for the lead, but he seems to be still running and mostly full song. So the saving is done. It appears Robinson may be convinced he can make it to the end with 14 to go.
It's going to be close for him because, remember, he did have to come to pit road with around nearly 40 laps to go in his thing, 35 laps to go. And at full song, it's hard to stretch 30 laps on this tank. So he really had to save a lot to get a lot in the tank right there. Or maybe he's just gotten to the point where there's not enough cars in front of him to keep him at float if he's saving down these straightaways, and he realizes he just kind of has to run at full song and hope a caution comes out or something happens in his favor. But if this race continues to go green like it's standing right now, I believe that is the position that both the 28 and the 45 are in, where they're just kind of having to run this thing out as long as they can, and hopefully it's enough if they get a caution flag. If this race were to go green all the way to the end, I think right here could be our race for the race victory right here. Connor Trafari is lurking back there, but I think his tire advantage is starting to go away. He did pit later than these guys, but that gap looks like a little too much for me. But think about this battle right here, Kenneth. This is a lot of wins in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series between these guys as Peel takes a look to the inside, door slams him up the racetrack, and they're going to be side by side down the straightaway.
He'll keep the nose on the quarter panel of Maggio. He has to go back again. So a third time that Peel has tried the attempted pass for third, all of it for naught. As Peel will wave and try to figure out another way to get around the four-time career 4-wide victor, and Steven Maggio looking for his 5th career dub in his sophomore season, coming to 12 laps to go. Andretti Robinson with the skies of blue and the sun of bright here in Long Pond, looking to shine in his neon yellow Ford Mustang for his first victory, while Jaden Porter is hoping that the K word, karma, doesn't come around to bite him in these final few laps.
And it's just that it's almost like these fuel tanks for the drivers up front is like a ticking time bomb. You're watching it slowly tick down on your iRacing UI if you're in the position of Andretti Robinson or Jaden Porter. So you're just kind of waiting as these laps tick by, hoping for maybe a yellow flag to save what's going on for you right now. But it's just the waiting game for these guys, and also for the drivers in 3rd and 4th who are waiting to see if the leaders don't make it to the end, because then this would be the net battle for the race lead and the race win.
To note the difference on tires between the drivers in the top 5, you look at Jaden Porter, who's on the oldest set at 23, as here comes Peel looking to the inside in turn 3. Another attempted shot at the 51. They'll make contact. They'll lean on each other at the exit of the final corner, and they'll touch down the straightaway. Still side by side to turn 1.
Peel all down there. Got to get up close and side draft him and stay at bay here in turn number 1. And you really got to send it in here and hope you can get him clear by the center of the corner. That's what Peel's going to try to do. Try to slide up. Maggio trying to keep his nose in the corner, but he's not going to be able to. Lawson Peel gets clear. Maggio going to try to cross him back over as Peel is going to get clear for the 3rd spot.
How about this race for 3rd? But what could be the ultimate cash prize of the win here at Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and Peel finally makes his dart. He hits the jackpot, and Peel takes away 3rd. But it's still another 4 seconds, Charlie, until he can catch up to Porter and Andretti Robinson, who he is hoping would run out of fuel before this is done.
Yeah, these drivers are fighting hard for this position and using each other up, but they're not even sure. I mean, obviously, a good finish inside of the top 5 is absolutely perfect. But for drivers like Lawson Peel and Steven Maggio, they want to get a race win, but they're not even sure yet if they are fighting for the race win, because will the drivers of the number 28 and 45 in positions 1 and 2 actually make it to the end? But for Lawson Peel, he got past Maggio. He's in the best spot possible. Now it's down to fate to decide if he will either be finishing in the back end of the podium or potentially a race win.
Here's a look in the battle for 20th. This is right behind the 2 cars that had reached pit road earlier on in this event. Moreno in 18th, Bacalhau in 19th. There he is at the front end of your screen. And then the battle for 20th, Eric Schaefer, Alex Schumacher with Dusty Applin sort of hanging in the background. Not in the fight for position here, but the 68-3 will tussle into turn 1 and try it once again with 10 laps to go. Shui trying to rebound after a struggle-filled Bristol Motor Speedway race in which he spun around several times. And one of those spins had brought out the overtime restart where Moreno had pulled away from his teammate Porter in order to grab the victory. There's contact and a touch from Dusty Applin. That is something that the leaders, Keelan Belsha, do not want to see. Any hint of another yellow flag affecting this race.
They want this thing to go green, and that is kind of what a Francisco Bacallao or Ethan Fonseca Moreno, two guys who have been dominant today, that's what they want to see. They want to see a caution flag fly. And if you're Schumacher right there, you just hope Dusty Applin backs off because he is 4 laps down as it stands right now. You do not want him to be a factor in this one as Jaden Porter and Robinson avoid pit road for another lap, and we come down to 8 to go. And you're starting to think as we get closer and closer to that checkered flag, it could be a possibility that they can make this thing to the end. I think if Robinson wanted to get around Porter and didn't want to save as much as he could, he would have by now. But it seems he is very content staying tucked in behind that 28 right now, staying in his draft, using as little fuel as he possibly can to make sure he can stretch that tank to the end. Because once Porter pulls down that pit road, if he does before Robinson, you're going to have all that clean air out in front of you. You're going to be burning as much fuel per gallon as you have all race long with that clean air outside of your nose. It's the same dilemma we see at a super speedway like Daytona or Talladega. When you're wide open leading a line, you use the most fuel as Jaden Porter pulls down a pit road, and now it's turned over to Andretti Robinson in the race lead for 7 more laps.
The rookie and Andretti Robinson wants this win in the 4-wide column for keeps. And it's Jaden Porter who will give away the lead. Entering 6 laps to go, he cannot make it on his stretch of fuel. And that leaves 1. Andretti Robinson by 4 seconds above Lawson Peel and Steven Maggio. Their fight continues for what could be the net race lead. How much does Robinson have left in him?
We're going to see. 7 laps to go is still a long way, and if his engine is at full song, that means he's good to go. And but we'll see if he is still clutching in these corners to save just as much fuel as possible. The gap to second hasn't dipped below 4 seconds in a little while, so it's all about maintaining that portion and maybe giving that, or maybe feeding that away to Lawson Peel in the interest of saving as much fuel as you can. But it's all just the waiting game to see if Andretti Robinson is going to make it to the end of this race. But for Lawson Peel, he is hoping and praying that Andretti is going to run out.
Remember, Robinson had been the one saving fuel in the top 5, while Porter had been running 100% the entire run. So all of that wasted fuel in the clean air while Robinson had saved in the draft could be the difference to save a couple more laps and win his first ever 4-wide race in his first ever start. We had 3 of those situations happen last season, when Gabriel Dehari did it at Iowa, when Maggio himself did it at Auto Club, when Kyle Tursak dominated Bristol to win that race in his first ever run. We have 1 more this season to add to the list in Michael Walls at Daytona. We haven't had one since. But could this be the one that breaks the long-time curse, as Lawson Peel wants to break his winless streak alongside Maggio? With 3.6 seconds to spare, 5 laps to go from Pocono Raceway. And this race all in the hands of the rookie. Back to turn 1.
That's 15 miles that are going to be very long to the checkered flag. Robinson has hoped he's got enough fuel in the tank to make it to the end of this thing. Open through 1 and 2. We talk about it in the past, Kenneth, about how good drivers are in their debut in 4-wide. It's a trend we have seen in the past. It's a trend Andretti trying to bring back here tonight. Said he wanted to run more next gens. He's made it in here tonight in Pocono for his debut, and he's 5 laps away from a victory. As we shout out some good runs a little further back in this pack, you see Kyle Benson in that 38. He's a little further behind the Rafari Mobile, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, the Auto Club winner, sitting pretty inside the top 10. Brandon Banks in the 5 car, putting together a good run for himself in the 7th position for Drinkin' Bros Racing, as his teammate Lawson Peel is trying to bring this one home with a race victory, which, by the way, that lead is down to 3 seconds. Nicholas Baumann, a great recovery effort for him, has put himself in 8th. Mikey Neal, CJ Munier, Rounding out the top 10, a couple guys we have seen in incidents today have put themselves in the top 10 of this race. Michael Newbraw in the 6th, battling it out for a spot in the top 10 here.
And shout out these drivers. They have done phenomenal tonight. CJ Munier, Michael Newbraw, Tony Kivin. I mean, he's been running all night long. And the caution comes out with 3 laps to go. And it's a spin on the front straightaway. Craig Lautenschlager is troubled. And Andretti Robinson will see the pace car come out with an attempt at overtime waiting for him.
Wow. That is something right there. I don't know if Andretti's thankful or not, but you got to think of guys who may be thankful for this. Moreno, Bacalhau, if they stay out here and everybody else comes down pit road, this race could be turned right back over to them. So we'll get a look at the incident to see what happened here. Racing hard down here towards the checkered flag, coming to 4 laps to go. You see Porter trying to make up ground on the fresh tires. Bounces off the fence and just barely gets into Lautenschlager. They kind of door bang. Craig Parks nowhere to go. They probably would have been all right there if Lautenschlager didn't bounce into Parks there. Jesse Prees also involved in this one. Just look from his onboard in that 0 car. See Lautenschlager and Porter bumping and banging up there. I don't know if Lautenschlager would have had it saved or not, but Prees locks it down, trying to avoid the spinning Parks. It's damage on that car, and Andretti Robinson, who we'll never know. Well, maybe if we get to talk to him later, we'll know if he could have made it or not, but he could be breathing a big sigh of relief if he can bring everybody down pit road here with him. But I wonder, Kenneth, we've seen the old tires and how much of not so much of an advantage they are. And I wonder if we see anybody stay out, but you got to think, I don't know if any of these tanks outside of those BBR tanks who pitted with 20 to go can make it and survive multiple overtime attempts. So I feel like a lot of people will be coming down for service here.
Who comes in? The leaders decide to enter. Steven Maggio crucially decides it's not his time yet. He stays out with 3 laps to go. And he's followed by his teammates, or his fellow former friends, Juergensmeyer, Mikey Neal, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Francisco Bacalhau, and one more car in the background. A huge call for the drivers to stay out with an overtime attempt waiting in the wings. As here come the drivers on pit road, and Peel overshoots the box.
Has to back up a little bit of lost time there. But guys, for the drivers who stayed out, that's 3 rows of 2 cars wide that these drivers who are coming down for service and taking tires right now, led off by, I believe that's Connor Trafari, leading them off a pit road there. That's 3 rows of 2 wide that these drivers who just pit for tires are going to have to bulldoze their way through in this potentially, yes, this will be a green-white checkered situation here, and that's a lot of ground to make up, especially with how much they struggled to make them up prior on former restarts.
And now this shakes up the game. How about it, guys? This is going to be fun on an overtime restart. And again, it was that really close scenario for Andretti Robinson. We could only hope to imagine how much fuel he had left in that car. But the consensus was clear, Keelan. He was in no way going to make it on an overtime restart, let alone several overtime restarts that can come out. We have 3 maximum that we can use. For Maggio, though, he's going to tether it close to the edge with Jonathan Juergensmeyer, who told us after Auto Club that was not the way he wanted to win that race. Seeing Gabriel Dehari and Mikey Neal tangle at the exit of Turn 4, could this be the chance that he rights that ship and gets a second career victory in a way that he knows will be well-earned?
That's going to be his goal. He wants a well-earned victory. But right behind him, a guy who wants that first victory, Mikey Neal. We have seen him close several times. Think back to Kansas last season. He was knocking on the door. Auto Club. He was just a couple hundred yards from that checkered flag before the contact with Gabriel Dehari, giving that win to Juergensmeyer. A lot of feel-good stories up here in the top 3 with Maggio trying to break the winless drought, Juergensmeyer trying to get one he deserves, and Mikey Neal trying to get that first one in the win column. But you got to wonder, those top 3, they pit right around the green flag fuel window was open. They're going to have to hope they can make it a full 5 miles of overtime. And if we get a second attempt they may not have the fuel to make it, and that could turn the race over to guys who are safe for a couple attempts, like the KBueno Racing cars of Moreno, Bacalhau, and Schumacher. A lot of different storylines to follow here. I think if I'm Maggio, though, I am hoping this thing goes one attempt and you can get clear, gone, people are battling behind you. That is what he's going to have to hope for.
Think of this field, Keelan, as an onion. We have 3 separate layers in this field. We've got the front few that have stayed out. It's 1, 2, 3, Maggio, Jurg, and Neil that have stayed out on the oldest set of tires. And then you've got guys like Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Bacalhau. They both pitted around the same marker, but they pitted a couple laps earlier, so the tire difference is in favor of them. And then you have Connor Trefario on 2 tires from 7th. Everyone else behind on either 2 or 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles that will try and give this one last shot until the end. We step into 4 wide overtime for the 2nd consecutive race here at Pocono. We'll try to run it all the way to the checkered. If we get a caution flag before the white is displayed, we will double them up and do it again. We have 3 attempts to finish this race under green. If we cannot get through the final attempt under green, the race will end under yellow, and whoever is the leader at the timing of that yellow will be the winner. If that white flag comes out and no yellow flag is on the racetrack, we will race it home no matter what. Steven Maggio looking for his 5th career 4-wide dub. Jurg looking for his 2nd. Green flag in overtime.
Maggio's going to get clear here up to the outside, fan out to the inside, try to break that draft as early as possible as they're all going to fan out here. He just wants to hope everybody survives as 2nd place going to be a battle, but Jurgensmeyer gets clear. 4 wide back there for the 3rd position. Peel on the very outside, Bacalhau on the very inside. Somehow they settle it out, and now Lawson Peel on some fresh tires has moved himself up into the 4th position and into this battle.
There's
but
a
Tony
spinner.
Kivet
Tony
is
Kivet
around.
is around. And we'll do it again. A heartbreaker for Tony Kivet, who had been running top 15 the entire night. You got to feel for Kivet. After the hard-fought race, his car is damaged beyond repair, possibly at the exit of turn 1.
Man, we'll take a look at this crash with Tony Kivet on the restart. But how about the move by Lawson Peel on the outside? 4 wide inside of the top 5. We're going to take a look back at the yellow flag, and that's Tony Kivet.
And it's contact with Christopher Bishop. Oh, that's close. 2 drivers with good runs tonight, spoiled by just a bit of contact. Got a feel for both of them. Bishop had been putting up a clean race. So is Tony Kivet. And it's just a minuscule contact that takes him out of contention. We got to watch that again, Keelan. Look at this. 4 wide on a fresh tire move. Remember, that's 2 fresh tires for Peel. He doesn't have 4 on. He only has 2. Look at that. 4, nearly 5 wide in turn 1. Can you believe that? My goodness.
It reminds me of Corey Heim just a few nights ago at Phoenix, Kenneth, where he sent it 7 wide to the inside on those fresh tires in overtime, trying to make up all the positions he can. And now look at that. Peel just jumped a row or 2 from 8th to 4th on this next overtime restart. And if Maggio, which I believe he may have come down to pit road, I don't see him behind the pace car. I believe Maggio. Oh, no, there he is. He's scared. Well, can't be doing that, Maggio. Yeah, he almost got me. I was wondering if maybe he would have to come down here if he's not confident he can make it a 2nd attempt, because you know he was hard on the gas, burning a lot of fuel there in that half lap or so that he got. He's going to either be saving really hard, he's going to have to come for service here, but he's retained the race lead. Jurgensmeyer's retained 2nd, but now you have those fresh tires of Lawson Peel lurking in that 4th position. Not to mention the guy who has won 4 races already this season, and Ethan Fonseca Moreno, as we see Maggio pull down into pit road. Jurgensmeyer as well. They could not make it a 2nd attempt, and that is going to turn the race lead over to, I believe, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, looking for his 5th win of the season. Seems like even when he's down and out of it, he's never out of it. He has been all throughout the field. He didn't qualify. He was 2nd to Francisco for a lot of this race, and the strategy looked like it was going to shake out if it went green to where he finishes no better than 14th. Now, you can't deny him. He's up there in the race lead, and the guy he fought tooth and nail for his Season 6 championship with, Lawson Peel, going to be to his outside for a second overtime attempt.
All roads lead back to Moreno, the 4-time winner this season, looking for his 3rd straight and his 12th career 4-wide victory, chasing down the man that's right behind him. Lawson Peel, the 2-time winner here at the Tricky Triangle, looking for his first in a long while and his 26th career 4-wide dub. And then there's Alex Schumacher, the Michigan native, running in 3rd. A chance for him to get his first career victory. How special would that be for him if he's able to accomplish that feat? And Bacalhau, in his part-time effort, has been strong tonight, has led several laps. Can he get his 2nd victory of the season? And Nicholas Baumann looking for his first, the pole sitter from 5th. How this race has turned around, Charlie, my goodness, and we still have more racing to go. We can get another overtime attempt.
Yeah, and to draw back to your former comments, Kenneth, the first onion layer has peeled off with Jurgensmeyer and Steven Maggio coming down pit road on green-white checkered attempt number 2. But if Lawson Peel is able to pull this one out, the defining move of his race, not only is it going to be running inside of the top 5, but that outside 4-wide move out of turn number 1 puts him in position to start on the outside of this restart. So that's a world-class move there to put himself in position to win this race and go up against Ethan Fonseca Moreno. You can bet that Lawson Peel, with that move, has a lot of hunger. I mean, he might be starting on the inside on this restart.
He is the only DBR car in this top 5. And out of the top 5, only the 2nd machine not a member of this KBueno Racing team. So it's an upper hand killing for Moreno because he can choose his lane, and no matter what, he's going to have either Francisco behind him like you see right now, or if he chose the inside, he would have had Alex Schumacher down there. So a chance to work with either of the end of the teammates, while Peel's the lone wolf looking for his first win since Auto Club, which, mind you, also came down to an overtime restart and a 3-wide pass.
You know Francisco is going to be a team player on this restart. He said it in his pre-race interview. He ain't going to wreck Ethan, especially Ethan, for a race win here. So I think the best strategy for Ethan and Francisco here, they know Peel has those fresh tires. They just don't want to let Peel get clear for seconds. So kind of get hooked up into turn 1, stay nose to tail as much as you can. Do not allow for a gap for Peel to slot in. Make him stay below you, have to side draft you down these straightaways. Put yourself in the best position to make him stay side by side with Francisco. Be able to pull away if you're Moreno. You're going to have all the advantage in the world on the restart here. Peel is going to have to time it up the best he can, and he's not going to be getting much help from Schumacher, I don't believe. Schumacher going to be a team player here as well. Nicholas Baumann behind Schumacher, a guy who is good friends with these KBueno Racing guys. But Lawson Peel on those fresh tires. We'll see what he can do. He's going to have to fight the guy who's been dominant this year, though.
And we're ready to go. Overtime attempt number 2 from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. The race in control of the 4-time winner this season, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Peel, Bacalhau, Schumacher, and the rest looking to dethrone the man in front. Green flag here from Pocono, and a wonderful restart from the leader in Moreno. And an important one for Bacalhau. He cannot clear Lawson Peel to turn 1.
I don't think Francisco got any countdown from his teammate right there, as Peel is going to get clear for the 2nd position. And now we're going to see if that tire advantage will have anything to run down that 92. Everybody so far makes it cleanly down as Schumacher gets clear for the 3rd spot. Moreno, though, checked out into the tunnel turn.
There's Trafari looking to the inside for 4th. On Bacalhau, the field keeps it clean. Through the tunnel turn, Moreno's up by 0.3 of a second, and Peel running behind. We'll see the white flag this time by from Pocono Raceway, and it's Moreno in control, looking for his 3rd straight. And a yellow flag again. We'll do the 3rd overtime attempt, as there's an issue in the back.
Looked like Maggio out on the inside wall there near pit road. He may have taken it to pit road. I think I saw that 51 right there. May have been involved in this yellow, and from a shot at a race victory to having to tow it into his pit stall with damage. The hits just keep on coming for that 51 this season. Only that one top 10 finish back at Indianapolis, and Eric Schaefer getting into that 51. They have had no shortage of run-ins in their history here. Schaefer got a bunch of damage right there. But two guys who know each other very well in this series. You see, Maggio had to get around CJ Munier there. And you see Schaefer right here going down into the corner. Was not giving Maggio a lot of room right there.
We'll take one more look at it, and you're right. It is CJ Munier that bobbled up the exit of the tunnel turn. There he is, that black and red Chevrolet that says Jersey on the back bumper, right in front of Maggio. He'll slip up right here in turn 2. And just caught the apron, went right up the banking. Maggio had to woe up. A good job to avoid the spinning 89, but then sees that 3 car on the inside. It's a dive to the bottom. Maybe Schaefer thought he could clear the 51. They'll be single file to turn 3. But indeed, the contact is made, and the heartbreak continues for Maggio. Another potential good finish squandered for the New York native and the 4-time winner from last season. He will hit pit road. We may not see him again on the racetrack in this potential final attempt at overtime. And crucially, this is allowing more time for those older tire cars to stay out on the racetrack, and that means they're burning a lot of fuel, Charlie. That includes Moreno, Bacalhau, and Alexander Schumacher. They are over 25 laps on their stint, so they could very well be in a similar position to Steven Maggio to run out of fuel at the worst possible time, while Peel, Trafari, Bauman, and the rest of the group are good to the end.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that they're clutching and coasting under this yellow flag. This is the last green-white checkered, so all it takes is a crash in the first corner, and then they'll just coast on to the finish. But it won't take long, based on how they've been having to play the fuel game towards the end of this race, that it could end up in a situation where they run out of fuel under green flag and lose the positions that they've worked so hard for. A call back to the yellow flag that just occurred. In the eyes of Steven Maggio, that incident was not accidental, and he is currently calling for Eric Schaefer to be kicked from the session. So a bit of, we might see a Hack News article tonight, potentially. But in the eyes of Steven Maggio, that was fully intentional.
I mean, from the camera angles he saw, we saw, I don't think there's much helping that 3 car's case right there. But those are two people who know each other very well from incidents on the racetrack where they have raced each other aggressively in the past and gotten into each other and into incidents with each other in the past. So it's been a rivalry that's been slowly brewing. Last year we saw Lance Hill and Eric Schaefer get into it. This season we've seen Maggio and Schaefer get into it a couple times.
Well, Schaefer had gotten into it with Kyle Benson. Remember, back to Richmond. Final lap of that race in an overtime restart. Benson and Schaefer had tangled together. They were running for the lead of that race inside the top 3. They both crashed out of the race. Benson then sent a forceful message in turn 3 after the checkered flag, which resulted in Benson being suspended for a race. He had to serve an end-of-line penalty tonight. As part of the penalty report, he was one of the few drivers that had to deal with a penalty or two this evening. Kevin D'Elia being one of them as well on a 1-lap hold, although he did not start tonight's race, so that hold will extend to the next event. And Connor Trafari, also an end-of-line for restart violations at the last great Coliseum. So several of those guys penalized. I'm sure that 3-car may be in that penalty book when this race comes to a conclusion. Will be on what should be the final attempt at 4-wide overtime. Once more, as we said, if we are not able to finish this attempt under green, and whoever is the leader by the time that caution comes out, they will be the winner. However, if we do run it to the white flag and there are no cautions from the green flag throw to the white flag throw, then we'll run this race till the end with a chance at a 5th race victory for Ethan Fonseca Moreno, a 2nd this season for Bacalhau, a 26th career victory for Peel, a 1st ever for Alex Schumacher, and a 1st ever for Connor Trafari, who runs 5th. Charlie, who you got in this restart? This should be a chaotic one.
Well, as you know, in my pit reporting days, I am not that stellar of a race predictor. I did get my first prediction right last week by guessing Ethan Fonseca Moreno to take home the win. So looking at the drivers up here, I do think that Ethan Fonseca Moreno is going to take it home once again. So he will be my race pick for this green-white checkered. But based on my track record, Ethan was the one who broke the losing streak, but we'll have to see if he does it again here. So I'm not sure if that's much of a curse or a blessing to get my race pick, but I'm going to go with the number 92.
Keelan?
I'll be devil's advocate. I'll take the 12 to his inside.
All right. Front row starters, Moreno and Peel. See the long straightaway. See turn 1. That's where they'll do battle. Green flag on the final attempt at overtime. And this time, much more cohesion between the teammates. Bacalhau right to the push for the 92. They're 3 wide behind into turn 1.
Now Moreno has to block both lines and kind of play a little bit of defense to both lines on the racetrack right there. But now 30 and 12 side by side. Just what the 92 ordered, as they're going to continue to side draft each other down a straightaway. Nicholas Bauman pushes the 30 through right there, as now Moreno starts to get clear, and he starts to see his teammate in the 30 close the gap right there. Same story, different year between Bacalhau and one of his drivers racing for the win here, but Lawson Peel not letting the 30 get away.
Half a second between Moreno and Bacalhau, who washes up in 3. He'll see the sea of cars around him. 3 wide for second at the exit of turn 2. Now they're crashing. Can they make it to the white flag under green? Peel and Bacalhau are spinning around, but the white flag is out regardless. Moreno out in front by a second in turn 1.
And that's all that he needs. We saw it was a blessing to his eyes to see them side by side. Now they're all wrecked. He's got over a second lead to AJ Green, who steps into the second position. How about Andretti Robinson, a rebound run for him, stepping inside of the top 3. Nicholas Bauman is also up there for a comeback run that'll put him safely inside of the top 5. But through the tunnel turn, it's all Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Just a cruise ride home, one more straightaway to go.
Robinson looking for his first attempt at 4 wide racing to be a second place in the battle with AJ Green. But it's a clear track for Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who for the 5th time this season and for the 3rd time in a row, a historic performance, dominates Pocono at the end. Moreno takes the victory.
It got close there at the end, Kenneth. I think if there was one more lap, those fresh tires may have prevailed. And Ethan's tank had to be getting to a end right there, but even when it looks like he's not the dominant car of the day, you cannot deny the 92. He has now won 5 of the opening 9 races on the season. KBueno Racing wins their 8th in a row, an unprecedented stretch. And Ethan Fonseca Moreno is just going to add to that points gap, add to his total in the chase, and continue to put together a dominant season for that 92 to open things up. It is a start that I don't think we have ever really seen before, Kenneth, in the modern 4-wide seasons that we have covered here at the KBueno Racing Network. And I believe he's out of fuel, Kenneth, getting a push from teammate Alexander Schumacher. And that may have been why it got so close, Kenneth. I mean, he was very animated in his camera right there, more than I'm used to seeing from him. I think Charlie, you think it too. He may have ran out of fuel right at the line right there.
I think he dropped 5 miles an hour from 100 feet to the finish line to the finish line. So it was either really close or it happened just as he crossed. But man, based on his animation, like you said, Keelan, in his camera, it was definitely close. And that's a perseverance for his fuel tank there to put him there to the end.
The margin of victory is 51 thousandths of a second. That's the sputtering of the engine for Moreno, and Robinson could have easily spoiled the party. But in a last-ditch effort in overtime and on the final attempt, Keelan, Ethan Fonseca Moreno will see Paul's setup shop victory lane for the 5th time this year and for the 3rd time in a row. Look at him.
Yeah, this time it's not going to be a burnout. He's just going to park it there with the whatever fuel he has remaining, and that is the emotion of winning. You'd think he'd get tired of it. 5 times in 9 races. I don't think he's tired of it, Kenneth. It's just as exciting every time.
Well, let's take a look at how this all unfolded on the final green flag restart of the night, and it was pure perfection for the teammates on top, Charlie. What a push from Bacalhau. He timed it nicely with Moreno. They cleared Lawson Peel just barely in turn 1. Trafari nearly makes it 3. Then he does for sure in turn 1 against Schumacher and Baumann. And basically, it was this right here that sealed the fate for Moreno, apart from the near scare of running out of fuel.
I think for everyone behind them, it was all about breaking free from the pack to try to make a run at Ethan here. And everyone was just kind of jockeying for the same position and eventually held everyone else up. But we were skeptical to see if Ethan would give Francisco a countdown on the restart prior. But with the pushes that he got into turn number 1, they definitely were coordinated. And we're taking our first look to see at the crash coming towards the white flag. We know they were 3 wide off the corner after Francisco washes up out of the bottom line into the middle line. Lawson Peel comes up, just a bit of contact, a lot of drivers occupying the same space here, and Nicholas Baumann is really the only one out of that who was able to break free, and he was able to come home with a top 5 finish. But for Francisco and Lawson Peel, 2 drivers, 2 different stories in terms of their recent success, but both of them were still fighting for a race win. But after that crash, it was all Ethan Fonseca Moreno a second ahead for the time being, as we're going to take a look to see just how close it was, but he had enough room down the back straightaway to bring it home.
And then look at it, the battle for second, Keelan, between Robinson and Green to the line.
Yeah, they were racing really hard for the second position right here because they knew if Ethan run out, they were going to be the first in line for it. Andretti, who had that advantage right before the green-white checker came out, you see even down into the final corner, Moreno pushing that clutch in, trying to get anything he could, gets that power down. Listen to the motor. Sputtering right to the checkered flag. Just incredible stuff. One driver I got to feel really bad for is Lawson Peel, though. He went from an opportunity to nearly have a shot to win this. Look at this. If that start-finish line was just 50 yards further down the line, Andretti Robinson takes this one away. That is saving enough fuel for the perfect time right there. That was incredible in-car stuff right there, Kenneth, with the listening to his motor coming to the checkered flag. But that's one guy I do feel really bad for, Kenneth, is Lawson Peel. You talk about the season he's had, and if that thing goes green and Andretti has to pit, he could put himself in victory lane, but instead turned around coming to the white flag. Just a real show of his luck this season.
Unbelievable result. The short end of the stick for Bacalhau, Trafari, and Lawson Peel in the battle for the win, while Moreno seeks his 5th victory of the season and 3rd straight. He wins this race by 51 thousandths of a second over Andretti Robinson as the 92 car sputtered at the start-finish line. Robinson in his first 4-wide attempt gets P2. We'll talk to him and AJ Green on the top 3 before we wrap things up tonight. Nicholas Baumann, give him credit to rebound from a pretty odd end to his midway run and then rebounded to a top 5 at the end. The pole sitter, Kyle Benson, wraps up a top 5, so recovers nicely after the 31st place finish at Bristol last week. Shuey returns to a top 10 run. P6 for Alex tonight. Brandon Banks, a quiet but effective run for the South Carolinian. A great DBR drive for Brandon Banks. 7th, Mikey Neal. 8th, Michael Newbraw brings in a top 10 for his 6th car, so a great run as well. And Jonathan Jurgensmeyer wraps up the top 10 in 10th.
Back in the 11th position, Daniel Moore putting together another good run for himself. Finishes in 11th. Craig Lautenslager, after being involved in that caution flag right before green-white checkers, and Jaden Porter, for that matter, both involved in that yellow. They end up finishing 12th and 13th. Chris Fowler stays in it, ends up finishing in 14th. Connor Trafari, who had a shot at it in that fuel strategy before the caution flag came out, finishes in 15th. Tony Kivitt ran top 15 all day, went around in a wreck and thought his day was over, ends up in 16th. Lawson Peel, got to feel bad for him. He was in an opportunity to take one away from Andretti Robinson if that race stayed green. Instead, he ends up finishing 17th after a unlucky season it has been for him. Francisco Bacalhau, the dominant car in the early stages of the race, had the same fuel strategy as Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He ends up finishing in 18th. CJ Munier finishes last car on the lead lap in 19th. Eric Schaefer finishes 20th.
Back in 21st is Dusty Applin, and then 5 laps down is Steven Maggio, who came down pit road and then was involved in that huge crash involving Schaefer. Craig Parks in 23rd, Christopher Bishop in 24th. Of course, these drivers just had Some tough ends to their races. Spins included Jesse Preece, Curtis Kelly, Colin Forrester got heavily damaged early on. Michael Wall's race, his ended very early on as well. Randy Showers, 29th, and Trevor Haley with a huge hit to the outside wall in turn 1 ends his race as he's 30th. Brandon Gillis, 31st. Tyler Murray, 32nd. And 33rd is Tristan Bailey. That brings the end of our field here from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And once again, we get to talk to the race victor as he takes his 5th this season and 3rd in a row. It is hard to stop this train. Ethan Fonseca Moreno back to Paul's setup shop victory lane. Ethan, what a finish. You were sputtering at the start-finish line. You nearly had the win taken away from you. What was that like, and how relieved are you to stay ahead for the victory tonight?
I honestly, I was fully committed to just praying for a caution because I saw them wrecking behind me, and then white flag came on. I was like, oh man, it's not gonna come out. But honestly, that crash behind me saved me. Like if that crash didn't happen, I was not gonna win this race because man, that gave me such a gap to save fuel to the guys behind me. I pretty much coasted like halfway down each of the straightaways to save and barely sputter at the line right there. Wow. I mean, I've been in these kind of races before, but on the opposite end, I was trying to chase the other guy down. But man, wow, this is absolutely crazy. Man, I don't really know what to say, honestly.
In your 5 victories this season, you've won them in all very different ways. Richmond, you survived in overtime from a chaotic event. Then you won at Montreal in a mano-a-mano battle with your teammate and team owner, Francisco Bacalhau, where you took the lead in those final few laps, and then you just surged away. Kentucky was straight up strategy and dominance, and then Bristol was just putting yourself in the right place at the right time. When you stayed out in those waning few laps, you understood what the fuel risk was going to be, given all those overtime attempts. How do you keep yourself calm in that way, and through all the curveballs, stay composed to win a race like this?
I mean, before all the fuel stuff, I knew that staying out was gonna work out because we were consistently like running the same lap times, no matter how deep into the run we were, and even coming out of pit road, it's just tires didn't really matter at all. So, honestly, I didn't think it would come down to this at all because the strategy I had, I thought we were just gonna go green to the end, or if not, maybe a 1 or 2 overtimes, but I didn't think it was gonna get this close, and I kind of fault myself for making it that close anyways, because I did kind of shorten the amount of fuel that I took just so I can shorten my stop. But I mean, you know what? I'm just glad it worked out, honestly. But next time I just gotta remember to, add more fuel next time so it wouldn't come this close. But yeah, hell of a win.
Lots of relief, I can imagine, that you came across the line first, even after the fuel troubles and trying to save as much as possible. It's your 12th career 4-wide victory. I'm sure that means a lot, but you're the first driver since Brandon Hawken last season to win 3 races in a row. How special has this season been for you, and how do you keep that momentum going forward?
I honestly, cool. That's kind of crazy because I never kind of had the confidence in myself to do something like that, especially in these cars. You just kind of have to have things go your way a lot. So, yeah, I mean, just got to look forward to more to come, hopefully. So, yeah, hopefully just keep this momentum going and go for more. It is, like I said, it's crazy. It's nothing that I have ever imagined coming into the season.
I'm going to say something obvious, but it's a very good time to be Ethan Fonseca Moreno right now. Congratulations on your 5th win of the season, your 3rd in a row, and your 12th in your 4-wide career. Before we let you go, anybody that you want to shout out or thank that made this race possible?
Yeah, the sponsor, Telcel on board, going to be on board for throughout most of the rest of the season. Also, you guys for putting on a good broadcast. I can't wait to watch it back later. Look at that finish. So close. And yeah, good racing for the most part by everybody around. It was pretty much clean, at least for where I was at. So, and shout out to my teammates as well.
You had 5 wins in your championship running season not too long ago. It's your 5th one in the first 9 races. It's impressive, Ethan. Congratulations on the win tonight from Pocono. Best of luck as the field heads on to Dover next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ethan Fonseca Moreno, the winner tonight from Pocono Raceway. And remember, next week's race at Dover, it's a track where Moreno just nearly won. He thought he won that race back in Season 6. It was stripped away from him in the final few moments after the post-race, but nothing can stop this number 92 machine right now. He is on top of the 4-wide world. And a driver just entering the 4-wide world for the first time got a good taste of it, Keelan Belsha. And Andretti Robinson, in his first start, gets second place.
Well, Andretti, you put together a second place run here, and you were up there leading for right behind Jaden Porter, and then you ended up taking the lead. And it felt like you were either going to be really close on the fuel number, or you were going to have to come down to pit, come into the white flag or something, or if you were just going to run it dry. I don't know what your plan was, but I am curious what your plan was. Were you planning on just running that tank dry, or did you have enough to maybe make it to the checkered flag? Because we knew it was going to be really close from when you pitted. It was going to be pretty on the number.
Oh, no, I was for sure going to run it dry. That's why I was sticking behind Jaden that whole time. I was just clutching in turn 1, getting the huge toe on the front straight. But it was going to be super close. I think I was going to be sputtering either in the tunnel turn or in turn 3. But I had a 4-second gap, so I had time to play with. But it really does suck. And I really tried to go 1 for 1 in this league since this is my first start at one of my best tracks. But to come home second, just barely behind the dominant driver in this league, I feel like this is like good momentum I could probably take into Dover.
Great momentum you can catapult yourself forward with, and you know, the playoff eligibility is 65% of the regular season, so you basically need to run the rest of the regular season and put yourself in victory lane. Is that something you could foresee yourself doing?
I think so. It all depends on the rest of the season. There are some good tracks for me, like Chicagoland and Michigan, but with Talladega being in there, there's always a wild card. That could also be a win. But I try to keep cleaning here since I don't really know anyone in this league, so I'm kind of new to all these names. So I just want to not have a bad rep. I just want to race everyone as clean as possible. That way I don't make enemies on the way down the regular season.
And you put together a good run, and I think you're starting to earn the respect from everybody else out there on the racetrack, putting together a good run. We know you on the KBueno Racing Network from Sachs. Your name is something that has come across the YouTube chat and in our streams before, so it's good to see you out here taking on a new league and putting together a good run, and you were pretty close to going 1 for 1. That is something that is kind of a trend here in 4-wide. I don't know if you knew that before coming into this race, but oftentimes we have people come in for their debut and then come out with a really good run, sometimes even a win. So we were kind of talking about that with you tonight, about how that could be you continuing the trend. But second place finish, nothing to scoff at. And I mean, if the start finish line was 50 yards further down the straightaway, you would have had that race victory just because of Ethan running out in that situation. But second place finish, you want to thank for making that run possible.
I want to give a huge shout out always to the Kenneth Bueno Racing Network. You guys are easily the best broadcast that I've seen on iRacing. Literally, you guys bring the energy, great graphics. You always show. I love that you guys show side-by-side battles. That's huge. Just a huge shout out to you guys, man.
We appreciate it, Andretti. It was good talking to you, and good job putting together a good finish tonight.
All right, thank you. I'll see y'all at Dover.
What a run tonight from Andretti Robinson. Sign of good things to come from a driver who made the Eliminator chase in SAC. A veteran name there, a new name here in 4-wide, and already taking some names in this league in his first ever start. Very excited to see where Andretti Robinson goes from there. And then we talked to a veteran in this series, capturing his 6th top 10 of the season, AJ Green. How about it to put yourself in position through those final few laps? I know it was a dogfight near the end after several attempts where it looked like there was a big shift in the plot every now and then. You found your place in those final few moments. What was that like for you on that attempt at OT?
It was crazy. I wasn't gonna when on the green flag run, I was like 14th. I was saving the whole time. That caution came out. At first, I was pissed. Did not want the caution. I wanted to finish and leave. And then everybody started wrecking, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just take a freebie there, and there. Then they wrecked out a 3 on the last green white, and I was like, oh, I have a shot at a top 3, maybe a win, but I cooked turn 1 and had to battle with P2 there. But it was fun. I did not expect to get third out of it tonight.
But it seems like a string of top 10s are in your favor this season. It's a massive turnaround from Season 6 and Season 7, in which it took you a little while to find your groove. What has been different about the beginning portions of Season 8 compared to those past 2 seasons, and your confidence level at this point?
I think the big difference, it might sound weird, but like, I'm not like focused on like, iRacing too much. Having the time like with school kind of takes my mind off it. I'm not on it too much anymore. So when I am on it, I want to do the best I can. And I think having something else going on with school has kind of helped. Kind of give me that like motive to do iRacing and get better at it. And hopefully I can keep this top 10 streak going till the end of the season.
It's been going well for you so far, and even though the win's not there yet, there's a chance that it could, and these continuous good finishes are going to be a good sign moving forward for you as a former champion of this series. AJ, before we let you go after this wild race from Pocono Raceway, anybody that you want to shout out and thank for tonight's run?
Yeah, shout out to Colin and Curtis and Daniel. Shout out to y'all in the booth. Tyler putting on the league and then doing race control at the during the race. And yeah.
Well,
and
AJ,
shout out to Ethan too. Well, yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Well, AJ, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the 3rd place finish. It's good to talk to you again after a bit, and best of luck as you and the field take on Dover next week. Until then, congrats on the 3rd tonight.
Thank you.
AJ Green, the Clemens, North Carolina native, takes away 3rd. Great fight with Andretti Robinson. Could have easily put himself in competition for the win. And like Keelan said, if the start-finish line was maybe 50 yards down the road instead of where it actually is here at Pocono, we would have had a different story. We would have had a different winner. And AJ Green could have very well been one of them. So a great run for the top 3. Some veterans sprinkled in, some new drivers, and everything in between. But Keelan, everything stays the same at the top. KBueno Racing gets their 8th consecutive victory, something unheard of in 4-wide history, and the dominance is there. 3 straight victories as the field goes into a tough-to-race Dover track.
And if it wasn't made clear before, Ethan Fonseca Moreno has made himself undeniable, even in a race where it looked like he was second to Francisco, and then it looked like with the strategy shaken out, he wasn't even going to be in the top 15. Then you peel back a layer of an onion, and he puts himself in the race lead. You cannot deny Ethan Fonseca Moreno finding a way to make it happen, even under the most obscure circumstances. And I said it in a chat not too long ago, if Ethan is going to be beaten, he has to have other guys run a complete race just like him. He is the only one running up there in the front right now that can run up there and run a complete race, start to finish, and make it work and put himself in victory lane. Everybody else having those incidents, and as we look a little further down the road, we're going to a track that he's technically won at before back in Season 6. I'll say he made the checkered flag first at Dover in Season 6, and Talladega, he's our most recent winner at that racetrack. But I'll tell you what, Kenneth, I'll be at that Talladega race, and I'm not going to be pushing him to the checkered this time. So he's going to have to go. He's going to have to go through me this time.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough route at Talladega when Keelan's on the racetrack. Hopefully JJ's there as well. We didn't see him in this event tonight, so hopefully he can take the green flag then. But look at the tracks that we have next up. Dover, then a super speedway at Talladega, then a 1.5 miles at Chicagoland Speedway. It's going to be fun. And mind you, Moreno has taken the checkered flag at Dover, wasn't credited with the victory, but is very fast there. And he won at Talladega last season in a spoiler effort through the playoffs. And then Chicagoland is also a good track for him as well. So a very good chance for the driver who's won 5 this season and the one who's won 3 in a row to get another dub and to continue that championship contention pursuit as he looks for his 2nd career 4-wide title. Again, something that has never been done before, someone winning more than 1 title in this series. Let's get one last interview before we close out our show here on the KBueno Racing Network. It's fair that we talk to our very own Francisco Bacalhau, and Man, I don't know how to frame this question. It's a same story, just different year. You were side by side for position on the final lap last season in the crash, and then coming to the white flag this season, it's another crash in the middle of 3 wide action. Tell us what you saw there on that overtime restart and just how that all unfolded from your end.
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking for sure, but in a different way compared to the last time I raced at this racetrack. We had a fast car. I thought I was going to get pulled, but Nicholas really surprised, I think, everybody with that lap. And, eventually, once we got a couple green flag laps, I was able to take the lead. And I thought more people would stay out, like when I talked to you. And I think a good portion of the field, rightfully so, expected more caution flags after that big split strategy. And the last thing we all expected was it to go green all the way up until about 3 laps to go. And that caution came out, and it really jumbled up everything. I didn't check my auto fuel. It wasn't by much. I think maybe just a tick away from maximum fuel from being put into the car, and it almost played a role because I was in the same position as Ethan there with the fuel. We were basically had the exact same lap count. So I think just working those overtime restarts, just trying to get myself in a good enough spot to save the fuel, to get in a good enough position. I knew that there were some drivers there that just had to pit because they pit well before me, and eventually they did. It's just unfortunate there, turn 3. We were 3 wide. I spoke to Lawson in the chat, just quick moment, and he said he didn't know we were 3. So it sucks, but that happens.
Hard racing here, Pocono, no doubt about it. You were one of those trying to force your way near Moreno in those final few laps. Tell us what you try to do in those moments when you know you're a couple car lengths behind. You know that the dirty air is as effective as it's been past the next gen update on iRacing. How do you try and differentiate yourself in the middle of that traffic to try and gain an edge?
I would say the biggest thing, Kenneth, is just don't force yourself into a mistake in traffic. It's very easy to do so. You try to drive the car the same way, but there's a certain point when you get close enough to somebody where it just won't. So the last thing you want to do is just bleed time unnecessarily. So if you can do that, you can probably get through traffic easily. The problem is traffic is not predictable. No matter who it is, it's just not predictable. They might not exit all the way towards the wall the way you'd like them to, or maybe they don't give you a lane, stuff like that. That's just part of the course. So when you're in traffic, you try to mitigate those problems. But I mean, luckily for me, I didn't have to deal too much with traffic up until those overtime restarts, and just I was able to deal with it pretty steadily. I think I probably could have had a decent chance to hold on even in that battle with the different tires, with the low fuel. It definitely felt like I at least had a 50-50 chance. I didn't sputter even with that crash that I had until off of turn 3 on the actual final lap. So who knows how that could have played out if we saw it to the end.
So you've made several starts this season. Montreal was a huge one. Indianapolis was your victory this season in search for a second one tonight at Pocono that unfortunately didn't come true. Nashville Superspeedway, you saw you there as well. When should we expect to see you again on the racetrack? I know you're part of the booth. We always miss you when you're not with us in the booth. I'm going to say that 100%. And I hope the audience knows that we're just not trying to kick you out of the booth. We want you to be with us, but we know you have a desire to race. When should we expect to see you again this season?
I think it'll be a while, and it has nothing to do with the race. It's just looking at the racetracks coming up. I don't plan on running any of the 3 points races that follow tonight's show. I do plan on being on that All-Star race since I do have that guaranteed spot, so I'll race at home. And looking after that, Kenneth, you probably won't see me until either late February or early March. I haven't decided if I run a race before the Daytona regular season finale. That's something I have a couple months to decide on. And Watkins Glen. So only for sure Daytona and Watkins Glen are confirmed my last 2 starts. Maybe there's 1 or 2 more besides that, but certainly won't be. The next time you'll see me will be the All-Star race for the next 3 or so months.
Sounds good. Always good to race at the home track in Homestead, Miami. I know you and I are very excited for that. Not only to host the All-Star event, but to host the semifinal race later on this season. Francisco, a great run tonight. I know it wasn't the ending result that you would have liked to have, but still a promising effort, lots of strength. Before we let you go, anybody that you want to shout out and thank for tonight's event?
Yeah, big shout out to Ethan. Big win for him, for KBueno Racing. We worked really well on the strategy, just calling everything on the fly and helping each other out wherever we could as far as braking points, fuel strategies, what to do, what you try, and just communication really helped out, and Ethan, to a T, had just enough fuel, and I mean just enough fuel. It was shades of Indianapolis, but even tighter, and he was able to get it done. Congratulations, Sam, on getting a third straight win, really cementing himself as the championship favorite without a doubt in my mind. And KBueno Racing, everybody really once again showing up speed. We've won almost every single race this season, so I think it's a testament to not just Ethan, but all of us in the team. We're all up in the front in the top 5, and any one of us on a given week can go out there and win races and sweep the top 3. And I don't think we've ever seen that by any organization in the history of this series. So it's really good to be one of those involved with the success of the team. Shout out to everybody else, of course, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, Mikey Neal, Jaden Porter, Alexander Schumacher, everybody that helps make this happen for the entirety of the KBueno Racing organization. Obviously yourself, Kenneth, everybody in the booth, you guys, Charlie Keelan as well, Tyler Murray, all the league admins that help put this on for our Wednesday nights. And I think it wouldn't be right for me to talk on the show tonight without obviously addressing, I know you guys did earlier, but without addressing the unfortunate news that came out of Louisville, Kentucky yesterday with the accident aircraft of UPS flight 2679, which I featured on the rear end of my car, which I haven't gotten a chance to see if you guys mentioned it or not, but I'll go back and look. That's part of aviation. It's unfortunate part of aviation that those are the realities we face. And I think even though I knew the full extent of the issues, the history, and those things that are commoner with what comes with the profession, I don't think it was really until I started flying myself that it really just puts everything into perspective. I found out about that news pre-flighting my aircraft before a little flight I was going to do here last night, and it reminds you of the dangers associated with what we do. And I know Charlie can attest to that as well. His whole family's involved with aviation, and you hate to see it. You wish it's better, but we also know that in a situation where everything is designed by, controlled by, and dictated by humans, there's always going to be imperfections. And the only thing we can do is just learn from every incident and try to do better going forward. So hopefully, eventually when the NTSB does their proper findings on the incident, since we obviously don't know much yet and social media speculation doesn't help, but hopefully when the NTSB does their investigation, they'll find the whatever they have to, the problem, how it happened, how it occurred, and hopefully they implement whatever they can in place to try and prevent an incident like this from happening again. It's just one of those reminders that really puts everything into perspective. Jaden Porter works on site of that airport. He was not involved with the accident aircraft, but it could have easily, when you think about it, just the proximity of everything could have easily involved him. And honestly, we got to think that he was not a part of it, but also just really feel bad for all the families and everybody that's involved with those lost in that situation. It's not been a great year. I hate to ramble on this, but I feel like the subject is worthy of it. So I know it won't be the last one, but all we can do is just hope that everybody gets through it as best as possible, and we at least find the solution. If we can find the solution in due time, then I think that's really the closure we would need on it.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Great words, Francisco. And, I'd imagine death hurts no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you do. But in a space like aviation, I know you, Charlie, and even a bit of myself, we find a bit more of that depth in the pain and in the situation when stuff like this occurs. And obviously our thoughts and prayers are out for all the families, all the victims, everyone that is remotely involved in that heavy accident that happened yesterday afternoon at the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. Francisco, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate the run. I know it wasn't the great finish tonight from Pocono, but hopefully we'll see you out in the next time on track. But until then, we'll see you at the booth next week. So we'll give you the headset back. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me be up here. Can't wait to be back in the booth. The Celsius Cherry Cola Toyota Camry was really good tonight.
That's Francisco Bacallao as he wraps up 18th tonight from the virtual Pocono Raceway as Ethan Fonseca Moreno, his team 8 and team driver, ends up winning. So it's a bittersweet moment for the owner. Not in the race victory tonight, but his team driver is and it's Moreno with his third straight. There he was, parked on the front straightaway with no fuel left. He was sputtering at the line as we push forward and make our move to the Monster Mile next Wednesday night. You won't want to miss that coverage. November 12th, 2025. Our coverage begins with our Thousand Islands Prep pre-race show at 8:35 p.m. Eastern before our race coverage begins at 9:10 p.m. Eastern here on the KBueno Racing Network. And be sure not to miss a frenetic Talladega Superspeedway race in the chase for the KBueno Truck Series Championship. That coverage will come to you next Monday at 8:35 p.m. Eastern. So you'll find Francisco Bacallao and Nate Polite on the coverage as we move on for that season and try to decide a Truck Series champion. Thank you so much for tuning with us on the KBueno Racing Network for Race 9 of the Season 8 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. From Pocono, a huge shout out to Tyler Murray and the entire admin team at 4-Wide Racing, and for all the lovely people at the KBueno Racing Network, for Eli Comerford, for Nate Polite, for our in-race analyst tonight, Francisco Bacallao, and for my great colleagues in the booth, as always, for Charlie Beyer and Keelan Belsha, I'm Kenneth Bueno, saying so long from the mountains of Pocono, and a congratulations to Ethan Fonseca Moreno on his third consecutive 4-Wide Racing victory as the field heads on to Dover.